Warning: this podcast features adult subject matter, adult language, and things not meant for children to hear. Viewer discretion is advised. You've been warned. I think we could be. We might be. I think we are live, ladies and gentlemen, here on the I'm No Joe YouTube channel. Thank you for tuning in to the latest episode of the I'm No Joe podcast, the show where every armchair quarterback can feel like an Eddie Bravo. Tonight, as like most nights, we have got an interesting slurry of news to talk about a little bit here. A interesting event coming up this weekend, and a couple of fine folks to go over it with. So before we jump into it here, I would like to take a second to go around the room and thank these gentlemen for coming along for the shit talking and the shenaniganry that is your home for all things punchy kicky, the I'm No Joe show. First and foremost, the freshest guest a man could possibly ask for, Mr. Fresh03. Thank you for being here, sir. How you doing?
Oh, I'm sore but here. And my neighbors are throwing stuff off the top. So I'm just kind of occasionally looking over. So if I stay quiet for extended periods of time, you know that they're throwing stuff out of the top floor again, and just kind of sitting back and enjoying the neighborhood show.
There you go. So thank you very much for being here, sir. And
My
then,
pleasure.
as is the case more often than not, across the octagon, as it were, from myself, my Wednesday night homeboy, my combat talk compatriot, the one and only Golf T Vapes. How you doing, TJ?
Doing fucking excellent. Ready for a 250, albeit a fight short. I'm still happy.
Yeah.
Things are rolling. They're handling bad situations greatly. So you know what?
That's the important part.
I really can't complain.
That's right. Given the situation that we're dealing with, I mean, we're getting about as much as can be expected, but we'll get into that here in just a little bit. As we'd like to do around here, we'll get into the news and recent events in just a moment, but as has been told to me by folks smarter than myself, before we get too deep into the shit, I should let you folks know where and how you could find more of this if this is something that you enjoy. So if you do enjoy the home of all things punchy kicky, the shit talking and shenaniganry that does go down here on the I'm No Joe podcast, you can catch us on basically all social media platforms. We are on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, obviously. We stream video games once in a while over on Mixer, all at I'm No Joe. And if, understandably, these Instagram influencer level faces are just too goddamn distracting for you, fret not, mon ami. We've got you covered there as well. Anchor.fm/I'm No Joe for the all audio format version of the show on your podcast streaming service of choice. We are everywhere. And if you want to support what we do around here, patreon.com/I'm No Joey to join the patron squad and get access to the exclusive unaired and some would say unairable I'm No Joe things that have gone on around here. But that being said, let's dig into some of the news. There has been I'd say slower trickle of news we've gotten over the last week than we did last week. For last week's episode, we literally had a small mountain of things that just fell through last minute. Luckily, this week has been a little calmer. Things have been a little more mellow in terms of the MMA world, anyway. We have had, obviously, a global situation has impacted from one side of the planet to the other, being the Backstreet Boys, but there was an even bigger issue that is still very much globally a problem in systemic racism that led, unfortunately, to the death of Mr. George Floyd. That has set off, literally planet-wide, almost in a trail right behind where the Backstreet Boys had started, a wave of protests in defiance, seeking justice, because initially nothing was going to be done. No charges were going to be filed. It was going to be just another incident that got swept under the rug, and that has not been the case. The world has spoken up in one voice through peaceful protests for the most part, and subsequently we found out this week that all 4 of the officers involved in the murder of George Floyd have now been charged federally. There is also a separate independent investigation going on with the FBI throughout the course of the trial to assure that justice is received. But during all of this, there has, as with most cases of peaceful protest, been some incidents of looting and rioting, mostly masked under the guise of the protest. And in doing so, several people have publicly gone out to try and keep things calm, quell the violence and the nonsense, and try and keep things at as level-headed as can be in these types of situations. The first one to really kind of ding close to the MMA world was we got a video of Chuck Liddell out in the streets with the people, stopping people from fucking things up. Just not trying to be a showman, just being a human being, trying to keep other human beings calm during these obviously trying and fucking crazy times that we are living in right now. Good on you, Chuck, for doing that. It's nice to see that sometimes people will be good people just because being good people is what needs to be in that situation.
Greatest thing about that right there, nobody is going to want to fight Chuck Liddell over him telling you to stop.
No, I'm good. I don't care what we're angry about. If Chuck Liddell stands in the way and says no, we're going to have to find an alternative route, folks. This is just not going to work.
He's out of the cage. He can still whip my ass.
Yeah, he's still a very, very dangerous man. And if he's that serious, you might need to reconsider what you're going after him for. The kind of double-edged blade to situations like this, for all the great that did, because that did immediately resonate through the MMA world. That got some fairly decent coverage as far as MMA journalism goes. But, as is the case with most good things, when someone sees you do something that works to your advantage, there is almost always and generally immediately a copycat of sorts to try and piggyback on that initial fame, the initial attention that your actions garner. And in this case, when we saw Chuck get out there and legitimately give a shit and get in the middle of the craziness going on, shortly after we got what appears to be a very, very controlled, a very managed, I can't say staged for sure, but there are those who are saying it was a staged incident, but a very meticulously filmed, I will say, incident of John Jones almost the next day out in the streets of Albuquerque, basically deboing some spray paint cans away from a couple of very scared looking, very small and young looking rioters, looters, kind of. I will say this. If it was genuine, good on you. But from the people who were there with him and people who saw him there, it was very arranged to appear more intense than it actually was in the moment. And that is kind of a little gross and kind of feeds into the vein of what we've been seeing John Jones style shenaniganry get to lately. And I don't wish anyone to become that much of a legitimate scumbag, but it's starting to genuinely look like John Jones is becoming that kind of a legitimate fucking scumbag. The worst part is that this all came on the heels of him announcing earlier this week when Dana basically irrefutably put the fucking nail in the coffin of any talks of John Jones going up to heavyweight to fight Francis Ngannou, because John Jones has told him that he, and this is direct quoting from Dana and Dana's lawyers, that John wants Deontay Wilder money, that he wants $30 million for his next fight, come hell or high water. And Dana said, not only do you not get $30 million for your next fight because that's not what we can pay you, but we are at a point with the Backstreet Boys and everything else going on right now that we're making less money than ever. So if ever there was a shit time to try and draw your line in the sand as your own pay raise or else, now would be that shooting yourself in the leg Cheddar Bob style moment, and John just kapowed himself in the fucking leg. Combine that with then the allegedly very staged protest scene, and it's starting to look like John really is making that turn towards just embracing the heel and becoming a scumbag.
You know, this is the one time I'm gonna have to disagree with you and say something that I'm going to highly regret probably for the rest of my life. I agree with Daniel Cormier on this. To the point of where he said, I think if he's dropping the belt, saying because he's not getting the raise he wants, he means serious business. He will drop the belt. He will retire. Because for this reason, this is what DC said. And I'm probably not going to quote this exactly, so it's going to be a little paraphrased here, which is all right. But let's look at this. How many times has Jones been out of action? He popped hot, had a year off, was out with injuries, popped hot again. And all of these things where he's had time away from that belt, he's learned that's not the end of the world. He can live without it. And he'll be just fine. He's already made enough money into this sport where he doesn't have to do anything else.
Absolutely.
So you know what? He's throwing a big card out there, and DC also made one other great mention. He's like, do you think this shit doesn't happen in any other sports organization?
Oh, yeah.
It does.
Oh, yeah.
It just doesn't happen publicly. It goes through publicists.
Right.
Where they go, oh, this, that, and this. No, this is the shit that happens behind the scenes all the time, but it's just not made public. It's washed and fed out to news media outlets in a nice fashion, saying that they're still in negotiations, or this side's not budging on this and this side's not budging on this.
Right.
This is just because right now they're going straight to fucking media with everything. So who's to say who's not lying in this situation? I have to agree with DC here, where I think fucking Jones is well within his wherewithals to be doing what he's doing. And if he's saying he's going to walk away, I believe him.
And I mean, regardless of what we think of John Jones at this point of his career, he's still one of the biggest names in UFC.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
I mean, you can sell bundles upon bundles of pay-per-views just by putting his name at the top of the card. It doesn't matter who he's fighting.
Right.
Obviously, we'd like to see Francis Ngannou just knock him into orbit, but I mean, I kind of want to watch Francis Ngannou knock almost everybody into orbit.
Right.
It's just fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I mean, he's got a point. Like, I mean, let's say Ronda Rousey gets a wild hair up her ass and comes out of retirement. Like, you can put her at the top of the card against anybody. It doesn't matter who she fights. Like, it's gonna sell a boatload of pay-per-views, and you have to pay her accordingly. You have to pay John Jones accordingly. I mean,
I do agree with that.
He didn't win his last fight.
Right.
Despite what the record book says.
Yeah, his last two, really.
Yeah, his last two fights, he did not win those fights. But, I mean, the record book says that he did. So he's still the champ. He doesn't need the belt. He's, he can walk away from it, come back and get it pretty much anytime he wants, although maybe not nearly as easily at this point of his career.
Right.
But, I mean, I think he's well within his rights to say, I am what I am to you. What if you need a pay-per-view sold out, or not, if you need an arena sold out and you need a boatload of pay-per-views sold, put my name at the top of the card against somebody, and give me a good chunk of that gate.
Right. Well, and
so, I mean, I don't like what he's doing.
Right.
But I think he's within his rights at this point of his career to demand big paydays, because his days are numbered. He's might be a younger guy. There goes the neighbors throwing stuff out again. Yeah, so I mean, he's I wouldn't say he's on the 18. I wouldn't say he's on the 18th green. I'd say he's somewhere on 17.
Right.
I think he's still got a couple of really, really good fights left in him. And I think he's right to start asking for more money for those before the wheels fall off. When the wheels fall off, Dana can put him out to pasture like he's done so many times. But until then, I mean, he's a big money draw. As much
Very
of a
true.
douchebag as he is, he's a huge money draw. So
Very
what
true.
I got. That's what I got. I mean, ask for your money, man. Go
See,
for it. You've seen you. He knows what Dana does to people when they reach Dan. He
right,
knows.
right. Well, that's exactly my point here, though, is that I don't dispute that they should all, especially top tier, be making way more money in relation to what the company is raking in with the fucking coin machine style fucking money grabbers. I
Hmm.
absolutely agree that everybody, especially the lower guys, but the champions for sure, should be making more fucking money. But that being said, Chael actually brought up a very good point in relation to John trying to do it this way. If you're angling for more money, one, at a time when your company is actually losing money, is never the great time to make that negotiation. But two, when you're the champion trying to negotiate for more money and you threaten to relinquish your belt, which John has said he is going to do. He said he is done. They can schedule Dom versus Jan for the 205 title fight now, for the vacant title, he says. So if that is the case and he does actually relinquish his title, he actually makes it even harder for him to argue for more money, because one of the things that champions in the UFC get is called the Champions Clause, which entitles them to a percentage of the pay-per-view and the gate. And you only get that if you are the champion. You don't get that for being the main event. You only get that if you are in the title fight. So if John gives up his title, trying to come back and renegotiate after that, he's actually taken one of his strongest bargaining chips off the table on his own. Because now, if he does quote unquote retire to sit out and wait and decides to come back, he no longer has that belt and that championship clause to use to negotiate to try to get more money. He's actually devaluing himself in the process of trying to get himself more money and show that he's worth more. He's kind of shooting
Well,
himself in the foot.
Well, here's the other thing. He's not right now. There's no live crowds.
Right.
It's coming at some point. Sitting out right now and not getting booked into a fight and not getting the piss knocked out of him by somebody is a relatively smart strategy, honestly. And when he comes back, I mean, how much did Connor pull on his last fight when he fought Cowboy? It was a ridiculous amount of
Yeah,
money.
I think it was 36 million or 35 million, something like that.
Okay, and this is the type of thing John Jones is asking for.
Right.
All he's got to do is sit out and wait for a crowd. Like I like the more I think about this, the more it kind of makes sense for him to not be fighting under these circumstances. Like drop the belt and then you make your big comeback. Maybe you stomp the hell out of somebody, maybe you don't, but you still raking a boatload of money. You got
Right.
that. He's got. I mean, his name's on. It's not quite Conor McGregor, but it's damn near.
Right. Well, and I think that's part of his pity party that he's throwing here, is that he thinks that because he's the bigger, physically the bigger guy, he should be making the bigger draw because he's quote unquote taking the bigger risks. Well, Conor McGregor also goes out and does all the promotion for the fight without having to be attached to the UFC. He'll sell everything on his own.
Hmm.
John doesn't do that. John will sit at the press conference. He'll sit at the media call when they tell him to. But John's not going to do a Conor McGregor level fucking media campaign on his own. Have a whole Mac Life fucking series run aside from the embedded and commercials of his own fucking doing. Proper 12 promoting the event and the whole kit and caboodle. John don't do that.
Yeah.
I understand he wants more money, but if you want Conor McGregor money, you got to put in that Conor McGregor legwork, and he does. That's why Conor McGregor is the star that he is and makes that kind of money, because he
Yeah.
he draws it in. John don't do that. He makes great fights. I'll give him that. I'll absolutely give him that. He's a hell of a fucking fighter in the octagon. But when you want to start talking about give me Conor McGregor money, there's a reason Conor McGregor gets Conor McGregor money. There's a reason other fighters now use the phrase red panty night.
Yeah. So yeah, 38 million. I mean, if Jones sat out, did his Jones thing, it could be. He could. I mean, He could ask for 25 mil.
Well, and that's the thing, is if he would have done this smart, if he would have just said, I feel like I'm being undervalued and I think that I can give you a show that will prove that to you, I think Data would have been like, okay, what are we talking about here? You know, give me an idea. Everyone from fighters to fucking promotional workers to just journalists have said for years, if you bring Dana an idea that sounds good and he says interesting or I'm interested, you're as good as gold. But if you come at him with a this or that, if you try and give Dana an ultimatum, he's going to sit back and tell you to go fuck yourself because there's 300 other guys in line behind you waiting to jump at the thing that you're trying to throw away. I think John Jones, I'm not saying he doesn't deserve more money. I'm saying he's a fucking idiot for doing it the way that he's doing it, knowing how Dana responds to people doing this shit. But that's John.
Look, you
That's
know,
John
even,
Jones.
let's say, for instance, he does vacate the title. I do not think that hurts him at all here.
I don't either.
Because, you know what, the second he steps back in, they're going to send him right back to the title again.
Right.
They might give him a tune-up fight if he takes a year off, but he's going to go right back to the title again. That's how it's going to work, and he's putting himself... I think he's keeping a bargaining chip if he pushes this off the table. Says, fuck it, and walks. You know what? It's hard to garner another large name that's going to continue to bring in those numbers.
That's
As
true.
much as I hate to say this, you're not going to see that at anything below the welterweight level.
Yeah, not really. It did take a lot.
It's hard. I mean, let's say you're 145ers, you're 135s. You don't have that kind of star power there right now. The closest they've come to trying to push somebody to that, Cejudo. And what was that trash? When they could have been pushing Mighty Mouse, and he could have been international, but they screwed the pooch on that one.
Yeah, world record number. Yeah, world record title defenses and shit. Yeah, they could have pushed Mighty Mouse and done a way better job. But the other thing that I'll say, the caveat, if you will, is that if John does decide that he's going to sit out and wait for this, the big fights that he's angling for right now, because there's basically no mention of him in DC at heavyweight anymore. That thought basically evaporated. The talks of John going to heavyweight, yeah, the talks of John going to heavyweight right now are basically going back and forth between Stipe and Francis. And the problem is, John still has never fought at heavyweight. And look at the leaps and literal fucking bounds we have seen Francis Ngannou make since he fought Stipe the first time and is now arguably in line to fight again for that heavyweight title. The Francis that we've seen lately is just fucking night and day different from the Predator we saw in his first couple fights.
Yeah, I think he's absolutely in line right now.
And then if you take that and add another 8 months, year of possibly another title contention fight or maybe getting that title fight, and then John steps up to Francis getting that much more experience, that's a hard hill to climb.
I could see Jones giving Francis a little bit of trouble, but Francis, if he catches you once,
that's what I'm saying, and give Francis more time to get even more comfortable, get better tuned in. Oof.
Like, at this point, I think Francis Ngannou could knock someone out with just a shot to the chest.
Yeah,
like that's how dangerous I think he is.
Yeah, that Bruce Lee one-inch punch.
He's so much faster. Like, go back and watch some of his old fights and watch what he's doing now. He's ridiculous.
That, and he's got better movement, because when he came into the UFC, he was literally just a guy who had just learned boxing and just transitioned based on his physical prowess into MMA. And now that he's actually learned the fundamentals of boxing, he's learned a little bit more about MMA, his movement is smoother, his fucking actual boxing rhythm and his timing is that much crisper, and that just makes him that much more fucking dangerous. And if you give that guy more time to prepare for a guy he's already got 50 pounds on and experience in the division, boy, are you setting yourself up for a fucking challenge, man.
It's amazing how much his footwork is improved, just his overall movement.
Yeah.
Like, if you're watching his training videos now versus when he first came in, it's night and day. You're looking at low level. Okay, let me put it this way, because I don't ever want to call Francis Ngannou a low level. I do not want to say that. But you're looking at entry level tough fighters
Right.
to fucking championship legend, names going in the record books caliber difference. He's made just vast improvements. His coaches have done a fucking amazing job.
Yep.
He's put in a lot of work, and you can tell because he's progressively gotten better. The one thing we still haven't seen, though, because he's still putting people into orbit, I haven't seen a great improvement in his ground game because we don't know what his ground game looks like.
Yeah, that's true because we don't. He doesn't have to.
Yeah, maybe some Brock Lesnar type shit.
Yeah, because basically Stipe has been the only guy in 4 years now, 5 years, who's ever been able to even get him to the fucking ground. Kane tried, couldn't do it. JDS tried, couldn't fucking do it. Razorblades tried twice, couldn't fucking do it. Like, there's something to be said, and that's most likely going to be John's angle, because John can fucking strike. John can move, but John will also put you on your ass when you least expect it. And a guy like Francis, I'd have to think that's got to be part of his game plan. And then you're going to give Francis more time to train? Fuck, dude.
Oh yeah, that's the thing is, Francis knows what John can do.
Yep.
John's definitely gonna. As much as I hate to say this, John would be quicker than him. That
Yeah.
whole lightweight move up, he's gonna have a step on.
Yep.
That's just how that works, and he knows how to play the game. We see him play games with people all the time, which is why he almost loses fight. Well, which why I will say he loses fights but wins in the judges' eyes, because instead of doing John, he wants to go out there and beat people at their own game. I don't think he's dumb enough to go out there and try to fuck with rocket fuel and get launched into orbit, because
Yeah.
he's still a smart fighter, but I don't think he's gonna play with that one because he's seen what happens to
Yeah,
people.
he's seen enough video to know that even if you're good, when you get clipped, you get fucking clipped. No, it's going to be interesting to see how that story shakes loose as well. Next little thing I want to talk about real quick. We found out this week that RDA has one fight left on his UFC contract. Just one. Been with the company 14 years and has one fight left on his contract. Said that he would love to re-sign and stay with the UFC, but he also understands that he's getting older and that decision is not entirely his as well. So what he has asked is that, seeing as how he has got potentially just one UFC fight left should they decide not to renew his contract or offer him a new contract, he respectfully asked that his final confirmed fight on his contract be either Ponzinibbio, which would be a great fight because those two have been going back and forth at each other for literally almost a decade now, Wonder Boy, which I think would be a crazy interesting fucking fight to see as well, or Showtime Pettis, which I think would be a very interesting chess match. Yeah, I think that would be a very akin to the Anderson Silva Stylebender fight, in that they're both so much in that same vein of being able to be flashy but being so fucking quick and precise with it that it would be a neat matchup to see there as well. I personally would not be opposed to them giving RDA another 4-fight contract. We just saw Angela Hill get another 6-fight contract, for fuck's sake, and I've seen paint dry more exciting than her fucking fights.
Yeah, but she'll fight anybody anytime.
Yeah.
That's true.
That's Angela Hill's thing.
That's true. That is true.
She's the Donald Cerrone of the females division.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she kind of is.
Not with as great a result, but
right. Fight-wise, yeah. Fight mentality-wise.
Style-wise and
yeah.
company man-wise.
Yeah.
Or in this case, company woman.
Right.
Yeah.
Company person.
Yeah, she's this last year, Angela Hill's last year, like, I've gotten on. She's not the most exciting fighter, but damn it, she'll show up and she'll throw leather with anybody. And she doesn't give a shit. And so I respect the hell out of that.
Yeah.
I respect the hell out of that mentality. So, but yeah, another 4-fight contract I don't think is out of the realm of possibilities.
Yeah.
And to be quite honest, she really hasn't lost a whole lot of the fights that she's been in. where they've been pretty close back to back. She's lost what, one, maybe two in the last year and a half.
Yeah, she's 4-2 in the last year and a half, I believe.
Yeah,
Last
so
2 years.
she's had a fairly decent run for what she's doing. Is fast turnaround and not from what I'm seeing. They're not always full camps, so
Yeah.
it's quite impressive to see what she's doing. Albeit a lot of her shows are a little boring, but she gets nothing but respect from me for going out there and just taking fight after fight and just go 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 go. She's hustling, and you know what? I'm mad at her for that. That's fucking impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. Make that money. I'm not mad at that.
What's RDA's last 3 fights? He's 2-1.
I think he's 2-1. Yes, I believe.
Yeah, because he lost to Ferguson.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then prior to he's 2-1 in his last 2 fights because Ferguson was his only loss because he was on his way back up for a title shot. Up
yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not like he's on a bad run.
No, and he's one of the few guys that has shown that he can legitimately fight in multiple different weight classes. You want him at 55, he'll look good at 55. You want him at 70, he'll be great at 70.
Yeah.
And
so yeah, I don't see.
Yeah, I think a 4-fight contract should be. I'm not saying give him another full run, give him a 6er, give him a 3-piece, give him a 4-fight contract. They're throwing the 4 fighters out. I think RDA would be good for another 4 fights.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to see Wonder Boy or Pettis. Either way.
Yeah, I think there's still plenty of good options to match him up with.
Stylistic matchups. You lost to Tony Ferguson. I mean, not the only one.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's a fucking line of those guys.
Tony Ferguson had put away 12 in a row.
12 in a row, yeah.
Before his eye socket got busted on him.
Yep. Yeah, there's a laundry list of those fellas.
He was on his way to winning that one too. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I say let him. Give the old man another couple of runs. Give him 4 fights, be 2 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think it'd be good.
Fine. Totally fine with it.
So
listen to me, Dana. I know exactly what I'm talking about.
Right? Pay attention, motherfucker.
I got Dana on speed dial. Not that he ever answers me, but I got it.
Right. So the next thing I want to talk about real quick. This is kind of growing to be a recurring theme, but this week it's a little different than it's been the last couple weeks. I want to talk about the medical suspensions from last week's first show at the UFC Apex down in Las Vegas. There was a very clear and discernible difference in the way the Nevada State Athletic Commission came and did their medical suspensions and understood what was going on and then gave out the paperwork accordingly versus what happened down in Jacksonville, where it kind of felt a little rushed and it felt like the doctors weren't 100% sure what the fuck was going on after the fights just in general. There was some really wacky fucking medical suspensions handed down. This was not that, but this was equally weird for a different reason. So, Gilbert Burns, Augusto Sakai, Blagoy Ivanov, Billy Quarantillo, which he has come out and corrected us on. It's not Quarantillo, despite the way that the rest of the world would think. It is Quarantillo. He said so. Billy Quarantillo, Brock Weaver, Antonina Shevchenko, Tim Elliott, and Luis Smoka. June 30th. Good to fight.
Good calls.
Klidson Abreu, July 15th. Vincent Morales, November 27th, or cleared by a doctor. No contact until July 15th.
That's fair.
Understandable. Spike Carlisle is out until he has an MRI certified clearing his knee for combat, or November 27th, whichever comes first.
It's also fair.
Tyron Woodley is out until July 15th or until his eye sutures have been certified by a plastic surgeon, because he went immediately to his plastic surgeon in St. Louis after the fight last weekend and got an immaculate job. I think they said something like 2,300 stitches in total because it had split down to the bone and they stitched it closed in layers. You can't tell that eye was split at all. It just looks like he's got some extra little lines where the stitching is on his eyebrow. They put it completely back together. And if you don't understand how significant that is, I encourage you after this show, just Google Tyron Woodley's name. I promise you that picture will be way up at the top. He got his shit blown the fuck up. You could see bone through his face for a minute there.
Yeah.
Stitched beautifully back up.
His cut man is a fucking miracle worker.
Fuck
yeah, that
yes,
dude
he was
fucking fat. I was just about to say the same thing. That was amazing how good of a job he did at keeping that thing from just bleeding all over.
There was almost no blood coming from it for most of the time because that got done at the end of the first round. He fought the whole goddamn fight with his face blown open. Nick Diaz's cut man could take a fucking lesson from that, but I also understand that was Nick fucking Diaz, and good luck holding that crazy son of a bitch down long enough to get the end swell to work.
True enough.
But the other interesting thing here, we had some announcements come out for fights on Fight Island. There are, despite the controversy and questions, more fights being added to Fight Island cards. But we still don't know when officially it's going to stop. We just know that as of right now, they're looking at 2. They are still, however, booking all of the events for every weekend between now and then. Prospectively, we're looking at July 11th being the first Fight Island fight, but they're going full bore between now and then. We got an announcement that not this coming weekend, but the following June 20th, that card, wherever it should happen to take place, now has its main event in Curtis Razor Blades versus Alexander Volkov. That's going to be an interesting one, keeping Curtis Blades active.
Turnaround for Volkov.
Yeah, and Blades has basically said that he's only going to take something that interests him because he is legitimately in that line of contenders for a next title shot coming up pretty fucking soon as well. So it's going to be interesting to see.
That's a good fight.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it shakes loose because that's a great matchup between the two of them, I think.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot going on in that division. That's like that top of the heap right there.
Yeah.
That's just a tangled mess of just joy for anybody who loves MMA.
The whole top 10 really in heavyweight right now is just fucking murderer's row, man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even guys who are really close to the top that just took losses to Ngannou, still fucking killers.
Oh yeah. Well, fucking with Overeem and Rosenstruik looming in the fucking wings right now. It's real interesting around there. It's real fucking interesting.
Yeah.
And I have to say this because I really think this is true. Now that Walt Harris got his first run back in the cage now, I think he's going to come back different after that.
Yeah, I agree. And again, for anybody, props to anybody who hasn't seen that, go watch that fight again. Props to Alistair fucking Overeem for being a great fucking sportsman, period.
Yeah. Yeah, great fight.
So we did find out that they do have they're calling it right now the co-main event, but they're saying it could potentially be a main event. There's also a little bit of questioning around the actual announcement itself as to how this is going to work. July 11th and 18th are the days that we have confirmed, I'm using air quotes for those listening, Fight Island fights. But we found out Tuesday this week that Carla Esparza has signed one of those, like we were talking about earlier, those new 4-fight deals that the UFC is starting to throw out a little bit here. Carla Esparza got one. She signed it. Her first fight on that 4-fight deal is going to be against Marina Rodriguez on Fight Island, she says, or her manager says, July 15th. That's the Wednesday in the middle.
Might be interesting.
Are we going to get another a three piece and a fucking soda.
That's what I'm
3 pieces
wondering
of
here.
biscuit.
I'm wondering if she just kind of tipped the UFC's hand without realizing it, that we know we've got fights on the 11th. We know we've got fights on the 18th.
Or
Now, do we have them on the 15th?
the other question here is, when that motherfucker was typing that, did he type that on his computer, and was it a clerical error where he was using the number pad and hit the 5 instead of the 8?
That's what I'm wondering. Is this one of those just a simple fuck up by her manager and he should have said the 18th and she's going to be on that second card? Or did they inadvertently just let us know that the UFC is about to give us not only another three-peat, but a three-peat from fucking Fight Island on the beach?
You, it
I really
that,
hope these fights are on the fucking beach. I really
That's
do.
Dana said that the octagon will be on the beach.
Oh, it's gonna be so awesome.
I'm
you know,
fucking
I have this crazy feeling they may have tipped their hand there, purely because, all right, the 11th is supposed to be the first fight on Fight Island, right?
Yes. Yes.
How do you break in a new arena? You hit the shit out of it. Three cards in 7 days again.
We know it's possible. We know they
In-
can do it for a fact. And they can
in-
do it in, foreign territory. Now this will be essentially a second home for them.
I mean, knowing what we know about Fight Island, they've certainly got the facilities,
Yeah.
and the facilities are having a hard time getting used right now.
Yep. It could get real fucking interesting real fucking quick. We might get double spoiled this summer now that the Backstreet Boys have been, I won't say mitigated, but we've got their timing down and we're starting to learn to counter.
I will not be mad if that's the case.
Neither will I. I'm as much as I don't want to believe that's the case, I kind of want to think that they just inadvertently tipped us off on what the good fortune the summer might have for us. But
Man, it's a 3-piece with some red bean. Tell you what.
speaking of Fight Island, we now know what the main event for the July 18th card on Fight Island is going to be. The headline for the second or third, depending on how it actually shakes out, card on Fight Island will be headlined by Kelvin Gastelum versus Jack Hermanson.
Nice fight.
That's going to be a
good
very
fight.
good fight. Yeah.
Although I'm a little I'm a little bit weary of that for one reason and one reason only.
Oh.
I think Calvin Gastelum, hopefully he hasn't seized up. And by seized up, I mean we saw him have a couple of rough goes here lately.
We just did the OBS freeze.
Well, at least we got audio from.
I was going to say, feel free to continue your conversation. I'm just going to log out and log back in so we can get video.
That's all right. They won't hear us when you log out. So.
They said that they were on yours, so give it a shot.
Oh well, shit. If that's the case, then excellent. That's really the only flag that I can throw up on it. Otherwise, it's stylistically, it's a great fucking fight.
Yeah.
And where those two are sitting in the rankings together, that's a great fight as well. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just hoping he really isn't on that downward spiral because shown he's shown spots of brilliance and spots of greatness. But then when he got picked apart by Izzy, he kind of started the weird downward spiral, and I'm hoping we don't see it again.
Okay, video's back.
Woo.
And I did
Sorry, you
not
have to
hear.
look at our ugly mugs again.
I did not hear audio I
I'm
turned the
sorry.
audio up while it was reloading, and I did not hear it, so I don't know that they heard that.
They didn't hear us talk about Kevin Gastelum, but well, I mean, we can easily repeat that. I mean,
Yeah,
we,
I mean, what I said it boils down to is I think he was going on a downward spiral in the Gastelum days.
yeah,
After he had that Adesanya fight, his next fight looked fucking terrible too.
Yeah.
And
sometimes
it's a scary thing because he's had flashes of greatness. So really, I'm hoping that it was just a bad stretch. Like he gets this shit behind him and moves forward, or because otherwise he's gonna have a really rough night.
yeah. And I was saying that sometimes the wheels fall off of a fighter, and this is not the fight to try and put those wheels back on. Like this could turn into a bad night, but hopefully not. Hopefully not. Hopefully we get the stylistic match that we're hoping for, and
Right.
he does get things turned around a little bit. So
Well, and the other thing to keep in mind here is that Hermanson has been on a fucking hell of a steamroll with the exception of his latest hiccup. Gastelum was definitely on a fucking tear coming through that division for a hot minute, but I would say his last 3 in a row, his chin has gotten tested real fucking hard. Specifically in that last one when he got put the fuck down. For the first time we've seen him get put down like that in a hot minute, maybe ever. We've got another guy we're going to be talking about in just a little bit when we break down this card here who's had a very similar problem in that once that chin goes, there's no exercise, there's no supplement, there's no fucking yoga you can do. You can't bring that shit back. You can chew on that fucking rubber ball toy all you want, but
I mean, it is similar to this color.
yeah, pretty much. It looks
there you
just
go,
like one of those
perfect.
things. Yeah.
What's it called? The mouthy? The
Yeah,
mouthy or the toothy or some shit like that?
toother size or
It
some
looks like
shit.
you're chewing on a fucking skateboard wheel.
It
Who the
really
fuck
does. Yeah, it really does. But as nice of a concept as that is, there's zero fucking proof that that does anything but strengthen your jaw itself. That doesn't actually stop you or make it harder from getting knocked
Fill my
out.
cheeks in a little bit. Maybe I should get one and do it while
Right,
I'm
give you
one.
give you a little something to flush out.
You know what I'm
Oh,
wondering
geez.
is if somebody did that because it's come up and here goes off on a tangent for a moment. But let's say you haven't been knocked out. Would it be wise for you to be chomping on that fucking thing for hours, strengthening the jaw before you get knocked out?
Well, actually, caveat to that, funny story, I've seen several fucking pro fighters advertise or promote, endorse, ambassador for, whatever, however you want to phrase it, those fucking chew-on things that they claim will help strengthen your jaw and prevent you or make it harder for you to get knocked out. And
make you look younger too.
Well, I have to think, I get the concept of the exercise and the motion that they're going through, but doesn't it seem like they're doing it wrong? By actively chewing, aren't you getting your jaw more accustomed to being moved, as opposed to clenching down on it to synthesize the feeling of biting on the mouthpiece, which would strengthen the jaw muscles to help keep you from getting knocked out? Because when you open your jaw, you hang your jaw open, it's easier to knock you out. So wouldn't you want to strengthen it by making it better at staying clamped shut instead of chewing more?
I mean, it's like any exercise. It's the repetition of,
Right, yeah, the muscle repetitiveness developing. Yeah, I could see that, I guess. I don't know. I just always thought
if you're doing the all the time, you're building up endurance in those muscles in your
Right.
jaw, which is not. Yeah. So I mean, clenching onto your mouthpiece for all your fucking worth.
Yeah.
In case you can gassle them. I mean, theoretically, there's something to it.
I don't know. It's one of them weird idiosyncrasies that nobody in the MMA world is really 100% certain about, but everybody just kind of like giggles and shakes their head.
Should I order one and we try it?
Right? We might need to put some science down.
Like I mean,
I'm going to check.
I bought all sorts of crazy
TV
workouts.
when I go to the store next time.
Yeah, I mean, I
Right?
bought all sorts of crazy workout shit. This isn't beyond me.
Uh,
Shake weight.
right? We can't. We
Dude, I
can't.
had a shake weight.
We can't tell you how to
I don't
live your
have it
life, is what
anymore,
we'll
but I
say.
had one for a minute.
Oh man, good times.
It was quite the novelty.
Interesting
How
thing,
else do you think you get biceps like that? What are you talking about? Shake
right?
weight.
Hell yeah.
Has nothing to do with kettlebells.
Right. Oh, but last little piece of news I want to go over here real quick before we get into the actual meat and potatoes of this particular episode. Um, Unfortunately, the last piece of news I've got for today is not quite as happy as some of the earlier ones have been. We found out yesterday through, ironically, a series of Instagram posts from someone else, not directly by him, but his fiance, that Tim Sylvia, the UFC former heavyweight fucking champion, one of the biggest, baddest motherfuckers in the early days of UFC and just MMA in general, ups and downs in his career, but legend none the fucking less, has some of the
Mm-hmm.
greatest fucking fights in UFC heavyweight fucking history.
Indeed.
One of the most memorable ones was a match against Frank Mir, where Frank kicked him and he checked it with his arm. Not along the leg, but directly against the leg. And it basically shattered his arm, and they had to put screws and a plate in it to put it back together. The silver lining to that, I guess, would be, is that the insurance is such through fighters in the UFC that essentially any damage or injury you receive during a fight is taken care of completely, hands down, no worry of yours by the UFC. Which is why we've seen Mike Perry with 7 noses now. The problem with that is kind of been discussed in hushed tones and mumble phrases through the past 25 years now, is that what happens to these fighters who quite literally give their body in the octagon, putting on the show and giving the fights that make the organization what it is, and then are no longer able to or just willing or wanting to fight anymore, but still have health issues down the road. We know that organizations like the NFL, the MLB, even the NHL have lifelong health policies that will take care of those athletes who have obviously given a percentage of their body and their life to that sport and deserve to be taken care of in any subsequent resulting injuries that may come down the road. The UFC is not that and does not do things that way. Basically, the way the UFC works is just that. Anything that happens to you in the ring, we will fix on us. Anything else is on you, because they are not unionized workers. They are independent contractors under a company, so they don't have a company health insurance plan. They essentially have workman's comp for their evening of employment. The reason I bring this all up is because we found out this week through his fiance putting up a post on Instagram to share the GoFundMe, because the screws that were put into Tim Sylvia's arm are backing out and becoming infected and rusted through the skin. He holds his camera in one hand and then a spray bottle of peroxide in the other in a video to show you this, and he sprays it on his arm and you watch it just Vesuvius from these 2 brown spots that are growing like giant permanent scabs where the screws were on his arm. Says that when his surgeon, obviously concerned about this, needing to get this taken care of, contacted the UFC because the UFC had covered it when they put those screws and that plate into his arm to fix it, basically told his surgeon, go fuck yourself, Tim Sylvia doesn't fight for the UFC anymore. So there's now a GoFundMe started with a goal of $10,000, which is what they told him it would basically cost, to get Tim Sylvia's arm fixed because the UFC won't cover it.
That'll get covered, no problem. But I mean, now we're talking about the underlying issue of the fact that, like, it's not just the UFC. This is a problem rampant throughout sports.
Yeah.
And like a lot of like the NFL, the NBA, MLB, NHL, they all have unions in place, or they have player representation
Right.
that are able to go in and negotiate things like long-term health care. And there's a lot of we wouldn't like UFC, WWE, pretty much any sport over in Japan outside of their major leagues. Same thing in China.
Right.
They're not going to have this union representation, and any attempt to unionize um, basically gets the Pinkerton Detective Agency out of fucking retirement, and they come in and burn some shit down and make it impossible, and people get blackballed for this, um, and get blackballed right out of the sport, and blacklisted to never be able to fight anywhere, never be able to wrestle
Do
anywhere, never be
anything.
able
Yeah.
to go play baseball anywhere, um, play football anywhere. There's all these really underhanded tactics by these big companies, and I mean, it's quite frankly, it's not fair. I'm not sure how much of a discussion we want to have about this, but the legality of the things that happen behind the scenes is just it's beyond shady. It's beyond shady what happens to these independent contractors.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Um, UFC is better than a lot of places. I will say that UFC is a better.
Oh yeah.
They're friendlier than a lot of places are. Like I go break your go break your fucking arm in one, and they'll probably cover you for the injury, but don't ever talk to them again about anything to do with it.
Well,
Um,
not completely true. Look at
are
old
they are they bet are there is one better than UFC?
Super Sage North. Have you seen Super Sage Northcutt this week? Because he
Uh-uh.
was out doing the press circuits. You
Oh,
would never know that Cosmo quite literally destroyed the entire section of his face that would fit underneath a fist. Cosmo literally, I think they said it was 12 different orbital fractures where he
Jesus.
punched a hole in Sage Northcutt's fucking head.
Yeah.
You'd never know anything happened. They completely covered him, completely fucking rehabbed him, and they're bringing him back down to 155 because he is clearly not a 170 dude. But they're
Okay.
bringing him
So
back
bad
to
example.
155, and he's coming back. So yeah, that's I got to throw that in there just because it literally just came up the other day. Sage just did a thing Monday, I think.
Okay. Bad example. Bad example.
Well,
Let's say you're fighting in one of the crazy Russian MMA
That I think is 100% accurate.
where they got you in an octagon on the side of a fucking mountain and there's snow
Right?
falling in the middle of your fucking match.
Yeah.
You know, um, yeah, take care of the injury right there, but don't ever fucking talk to him again. And if you do, you're not fighting in the crazy Russian leagues anymore.
No.
And they probably got you out of Turkmenistan
well,
and Uzbekistan and all the other ones too. Run you right out of fucking town. Your only choice is going over to Thailand and doing Muay Thai and getting your face kicked in or your legs destroyed.
Right.
So a lot of this it's really unfair, and like people like the UFC, people like the WWE deserve the ability to unionize. And yes, it's going to cost the company money in the short term. In the
Right.
long term, when these folks are paying their dues into whatever this union happens to be, in the long term, it's going to save you money. I honestly believe that it would save you money
Well,
because
that.
things like this, like Tim Sylvia, he's got a pretty good case
Yeah.
that this injury happened on your fucking time. And granted, I was an independent contractor at the time, but the agreement was that you take care of this. And
Yep.
this is a direct result of that fight.
Yep.
Like he's got a pretty good case, I think, right? Well, let's throw it over to the insurance expert.
this is something I do know about, so this is right up my fucking alley. He has a fucking pretty much home run case for this. Whether you're an independent contractor or not, if you are working, in this case, he's working as a fighter.
Yep.
He is getting paid by that company, and they cover him for workman's comp during the time he's working. Their workman's comp says you get hurt during a fight, we have to cover you. for anything that you're injured with. Now, here's where this gets a wee bit tricky. Workman's comp works like this, along with any other insurance like auto insurance or anything like this. That claim will stay open with workman's comp as long as necessary until you have signed the paperwork to settle the case. Now, if at some point he settled and said, yeah, I'm all good, my arm's good, his case is shot then. Now, if there was never anything signed like that, this is wide open because they can still go back and reopen that claim that they had and say, hey, he has to have further treatment because this happened. However, there's one more caveat to this, and this is where the medical professionals come in. Because you're going to have doctors from both sides on this saying, one's going to point a finger at one that says, hey, that guy fucked up. This is why these screws are coming out. They used the wrong size.
Right.
They
Wrong
used
materials
the wrong
or
diameter,
whatever.
put the wrong plates in.
Go after that
Put
guy.
on one
Yeah.
doctor. The other doctor would say, no, everything else was perfect. But his body rejected it.
Right.
If his body rejects it, that's not on us. He was already cleared. And how long ago did this happen? This was what?
2011.
Oh no.
2011.
9 years.
9 years ago. Yep.
9 years ago. Okay, still, yeah, 9 years ago. He hasn't had problems with it in 9 years. You're telling me, and now all of a sudden the shit's backing out? No. Look, that shit started backing out a couple of years ago. He probably didn't notice it because shit wasn't poking through the skin, or because he's a fighter, a little bit of pain in the arm. Oh, there's a piece of metal in my arm, so of course it's gonna hurt when it rains.
Yep.
Look, those screws don't just magically go like this. It's not like there's a power drill attached to them.
Right.
There's another spot on this here where if he does go back and say nothing was signed, he should have no problem. Any lawyer would be a fool not to pick him up and pursue this.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's, even if they say, well, it's his body rejecting it, well, we never signed anything to close out the workman's comp case. He was never released by the doctor because if he was, the case would have been closed.
Right.
So he has a very legitimate point. However, it depends. It really comes down to how their contract is worded when it comes to their workman's comp.
Right.
If there says once you are medically released from treatment after your injury has been healed,
At the end of it, yeah.
then he's up a shit creek without a paddle. Which brings me to another question: why in the fuck is this costing him $10,000? Does he not have healthcare insurance at this point?
Nope. That's why his fiance started a GoFundMe for him because they have no health insurance.
And you know what?
What does Tim Sylvia do for a living?
He is a hunting tour guide. Hunting and fishing tour guide, basically.
That's great and all, but if you're not making enough money to get by, there's Medicaid for a reason. Apply for it. Look, we know what you've done in the past. We know you've been a champ. Look, you can go from top of the world to the fucking bottom. When you hit that bottom, you got to ask for help, even if it's in the form of Medicaid to get you some insurance coverage.
Right.
I mean, it's out there. Use it. You're not gonna. Nobody's gonna point you out because they can't.
No.
It's illegal. That's what part of the HIPAA privacy laws are.
Right.
Those are to protect you from having your information screwed out there. Nobody's gonna know that you're on Medicaid. All they're gonna know is you have insurance. It shouldn't cost you fucking $10,000 for it.
Yeah.
And if times are that fucking tough there in their household, that you can't have insurance, you have to set up a GoFundMe. Talk to the fucking hospital. There's a lot of hospitals that will do
negotiate.
Not even negotiations. They'll do. It's almost like a pro bono work. It's I forget what they call it. It's called charity care. That's the name of it. It's called charity care, where you go in and you talk to them, you let them know your financial situation, blah blah blah. They look at it and go, okay, yeah, you meet the requirements for our charity care. We're going to eat the cost because we get to write all this off at tax season.
Right.
And it comes back to us. So there's a couple of things in there, like for workman's comp, like purely on the workman's comp aspect of it, he's got a case there as long as he didn't sign anything that says, okay, we've settled this, we're done. Or they had something written in the clause that said, once you've completed treatment and the doctor has released you from care, you're no longer our responsibility.
Right.
He's got nothing if that's in there because you signed the paperwork. That's
Well,
how that works.
and since you mentioned that, I'm wondering if that actually might not be part of this situation, because when you mentioned that, it actually reminded me that part of the story that I was reading actually said that even though the event happened leading to the injury in 2011, Sylvia then signed away signed up for retirement, or something along the way phrasing of signed away the rest of his career in 2015 when he officially retired from the sport. And I'm wondering if that might not have been like a subtle little indicator in that he signed away all his
It
fucking
very
rights
well
for it now.
could be. So, and that's where it might be that point of maybe it's not worth it because it's in there. I
Yeah.
mean, if he's smart, he's probably got a copy of that somewhere,
Yeah.
and he'll send it over to the fucking to an attorney to have them read it over to make sure there's no legal language in there
Yeah,
that
to
says,
make
"Hey, I
sure.
scooped myself out of this." And I'm sure because he's well known enough, I'm sure there's plenty of attorneys out there that are chomping at the bit of, yeah, let me read it, see if there's something I can help with, because
Right.
I know I'm gonna get a cut of whatever we pull back.
Yep.
Plus, you'll have everything covered.
Very true. Very true. But that's one of those weird stories that doesn't get enough discussion, in my opinion, about the sports world. Is that this is one of those things that, even though we love seeing these guys get in the cage, we love seeing them put on the show, a lot of the times once they're out of the spotlight, fighters kind of get forgotten about, much like many athletes. When you're not in the limelight anymore, you tend to fade into obscurity, and it's not always a smooth transition as we've seen here, unfortunately.
Uh, it was fucking amazing to see how some of those contracts work, and especially working on the insurance side of the house, I see
Right.
a lot of that on a daily basis where I go, it's weird how there are these small little intricacies that you don't think about. And the other thing it comes down to is there's one other factor that factors into this: the state laws where the injury took place,
Actually, yeah.
because you have to follow the state laws that go there, along with whatever insurance policy was covering that coverage at the time, because each are going to have their independent language and they have to be followed. So it'll make for interesting to see if anything happens of it. I don't think if they're asking for GoFundMe at this point, I highly doubt that you're going to see anything come of it, because at this point they probably already know that something was signed away.
Yeah, well, that's one of the reasons that I wanted to bring it up here. Is I figure between having a pair of medically trained gentlemen and one of you specifically being in the insurance field, we would probably get some educated opinions in this situation. But that is the last of the news and recent events that we have got for this particular episode. So that will bring us to the meat and potatoes segment of the show. The reason for the season, the marquee for the episode, this weekend's UFC 250 event. Spencer versus Nunez. This, like most of the ones that we have had since the Backstreet Boys threw everything up in the fucking air, is a bit of an interesting card. I will say, to their credit, they kept the fluff fairly minimum for a pay-per-view card, but as is the case with the UFC, there's always a couple in there that are just like, ugh, let's get it over with. So, we're going to run through a couple here. Not going to break down all of them, but I'm going to give you a good idea of where the action should stir if you're just looking to pop in and pay attention when you get some oohs and ahs. So, I don't understand why, but for some reason the UFC is not advertising the early or the prelim card at all on this. It is literally just the headline marquee, Nunez versus Spencer. The two fucking big names is all they are using to push this event, and I think that's a big mistake, especially considering the big conversation coming out of last weekend's event was Gilbert Burns making an absolute statement in taking on and defeating Tyron Woodley. And then here we come this weekend with the UFC 250, first pay-per-view back since the Backstreet Boys started fucking everything up. First pay-per-view ever in the UFC Apex event. They're opening with Gilbert Burns' brother, Herbert Burns, versus Evan Dunham. This is a great fucking fight to open this card with. Now, I'm not saying this is going to be the best fight in the world. What I'm saying is the Burns brothers are world renowned for a reason. They're just making their way into MMA, but they are both very well known worldwide for a very good reason. Evan Dunham as well is a very well received, very highly touted prospect making his way through the UFC. These are two very capable and very hungry individuals on a rocket ship path to the top of an already insane division, and they're opening a pay-per-view with the two of these guys going at it. I think it's going to be a great fucking scrap. I think the Burns brothers are here to make a statement, even though I like Evan Dunham, but that's a hell of a fucking card opener that I feel that UFC is just kind of missing the ball on here, especially with Gilbert cropping out the fucking rest of the story last weekend to be about him after the end of it.
Well, I mean, they did a pretty good section on his brother too.
Yeah.
Herbert Burns knocked my boy Nate Landwehr right the fuck out.
Yes, yes, he's the only one who have
That
done
was
it so
ugly
far.
fucking knockout.
Yes, he was.
That was an ugly fucking knockout. I remember after watching that Landwehr fight, I'm like, he lost to somebody? Who did he learn to? He lost to Herbert Burns?
Yep.
Well,
and then we watched the fight.
Yeah, then we watched the fight. It's like,
We're like,
well, that shit happens. Yeah, that shit happens. Yeah, I mean, you got a really, really, really good jiu-jitsu guy in Herbert Burns.
Yep.
And Dunham, I mean, as good as he is, I mean, I don't know that he's ever fought anybody nearly as good at jiu-jitsu as Herbert Burns.
No, I think this is his test.
Yeah. You're okay. Tried to take this with
You
us.
guys might be mistaken a little bit. Evan Dunham's been in the UFC for a long fucking time. He's a seasoned veteran. He's been around since 2009.
Who the fuck was I thinking of then?
Actually, no, longer than since 2000.
Yeah, he's been around quite a while, but he's been on the shelf for a while.
Yeah, he's fought the likes of the Muscle Shark, Sean Shirk, Melvin Gillard.
Oh shit,
fucking,
no. Fuck, I'm not even thinking of the
Joe
right guy.
Lozon, Rafael dos Anjos, Cerrone. He beat Cerrone in 2013 with a submission.
No shit. Okay, so I have got my names completely mixed up. There was a new guy coming off Contender fucking series. Evan something. I thought it was Evan Dunham. I could have sworn that was him coming in this weekend.
Yeah, granted, his last two fights in the UFC were in 2018, though. One was against the Canadian with the porn stash, Aubrey Mercier.
Yeah, Canadian
and the
gangster.
other one was Francisco Trinaldo, which he lost both of those via KO. First round and second round. So he's got a lot of road mileage on him, and I think that's why they're putting him up in this fight that he's in currently. Because you know what? What a good way to bring Herbert Burns in, but to beat up, for lack of better terms, a beat up fucking veteran. As much as I hate to say it, he was very good early in his career. He put away some really good names.
Wow, that sucks. I completely.
He's not old either.
Right. No, I completely mixed him up.
He's not old by any means of the standard, but as far as the road mileage he has on, with the UFC, he's fought some of the who's of that fucking division over the years. I mean, anybody who if I get it, if you're a casual fan, you probably didn't recognize some of the names I was shooting out there, like Muscle Shark. Those were some bad motherfuckers back in the day, and I mean, we're talking 11 years ago. 2009 he came in, but he's did this. He came up at a good, nice peak up in the 2010, 2012 era. Then he slowly started to decline. I mean, he beat one of my favorite fighters of all time, Joe Lozon. And look, the dude has a good resume. He really does, but I don't think he's gonna beat Herbert Burns. This is the new breed of fighter that's coming in. At this point, you get to be gatekeeper for the guy who's on his way in, trying to follow in his brother's footsteps right now.
Yeah, I fully expect Herbert Burns to make a statement on this one.
Although, crafty old veteran.
Dunham's better on the ground. He's tricky. He's a tricky dude. But
considering he's beaten Donald Cerrone, I'm just saying it's out there. The dude's he's a fucking he's definitely a savvy veteran.
yeah, like I said, I just think this is a great fight for Herbert Burns.
Oh,
Interesting.
and
He's right. How many is it? I'm trying to look and see how many Burns knocked out or not knocked out. How many he's taken in a row? I think it's like 5, something like that. He's coming in on 5. Um, yeah, so it should be. I mean, I think it'll be a funner fight than people realize. But like I said, I fully expect Herbert Burns to take him to the ground, control it. Dunham's Dunham's at least decent down there. But he's coming out of retirement for this one, so we'll see what happens.
and I have a feeling he's gonna end up getting knocked out just because look, we've always said it. Once that chin gets fucked, it's fucked. There's no
Yeah,
bringing it back. It doesn't matter how long you take off. He's been out. He's been out of. He hasn't fought in the UFC since 2018.
yeah,
That's 2 years ago. That's a long time to be off, especially for a veteran with that kind of road mileage on him.
yeah.
Go
I'm,
back and look at the list of fighters he's fought and the amount of rounds he's gone. He's got some road mileage on him.
Gilbert Burns is on a 4-fight streak right now, or Herbert Burns rather.
Herb Burns on 4. I
Herbert
thought it
Burns
was
is on a
5.
4-fight streak right now. This
Yeah,
would be 5.
much as I would like to give Evan Dunham benefit of the doubt, I can't in this one.
Yeah, I mean the Burns brothers are killers.
Yeah,
Died in the old killers. So
I can't find who the fuck
You
I
know,
thought
every
he was.
every time they mention the name Burns Brothers, all I see is the Mighty Ducks.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. No,
Smash Brothers.
I completely fucking mixed Evan Dunham up, and I was just trying to figure out who the fuck it was that I mixed him up with, the fucking contender fighter. I can't find out who the fuck I mixed him up with, but even looking at actual Evan Dunham's fucking record here, I still have a hard time believing that Herbert's gonna fuck this one up. I feel like it's kind of his to lose at this point.
Oh yeah. If he would have fought Evan Dunham in the peak of his career, he would have had a really
Right.
hard time with him.
Yeah, that might be a different story. One thing I will say though, the next fight here, I do not have either party mixed up. I am very fucking certain here. Alonzo Menefeld versus Devin Clark is going to be a fucking banger. Both of those gentlemen have great wrestling. Both of those gentlemen have great striking. And when we see two guys who are very wrestling heavy, it generally ends up in a fucking slugfest. And neither one of these dudes are shied away from that type of fight. I think it's going to be a great fucking matchup. The thing that I will say here is that Menefeld tends to look a little stiffer. He's generally got that wrestler's no neck situation going on, and he's a little stiffer in his movements sometimes, whereas Devin Clark is a fucking slinky in that octagon. That motherfucker can go full rubber from his toes to his nose, and that can be a problem when it comes down to a striking battle. The dude that's stiffer is going to have a hard time with the dude who's more elusive more often than not. I think this is Devin Clark's fight to lose.
I'm putting the heel hat on this one.
Oh shit!
Menefeld tries to murder people in the ring.
Yes, he is a fucking beast. I will absolutely give him that.
He like it. I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters how slinky this dude is. Like his footwork is amazing. He is one of the hardest strikers coming in at lightweight. He's one of the hardest strikers coming in to this division, and he's got a couple under his belt. He got injured. He got injured the last time he was coming up for one. But I mean, every time he gets in a ring, finishes motherfuckers, and then like nothing goes outside of 2 rounds on him. Nothing. And like his success rate right now is 100% until somebody figures something out on him. Like I'm just gonna keep going because you can't take the dude down. He's a very good wrestler.
Yeah, he really
He's
fucking
He's very good at that sprawl. He's very good at his escapes. He's really tough to take down. And the second you're back on the feet, the dude is just throwing artillery rounds at you. Like dude is a fucking monster. So Menefeld, put me down for Menefeld.
Nice.
That's gonna be a fun fight.
That's gonna be a great one to watch. It is.
That's gonna be a really good one because fucking Devin Clark loses his shit
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
But this can go one of two ways in my book. Either Metafield's going to come out and finish him late first or early second. Because if you look at his average fight times, it's like 4 minutes.
Yeah, don't go long.
So he doesn't go long.
He's not getting paid by the hour.
No.
Nobody's taking him into deep water. And this is where I think Clark could pull something out. If he can avoid the early onslaught that Metafield brings, because he comes out fucking hot and heavy swinging.
Fuck.
Like,
Yes.
even if... I did look beforehand on this. If you go and look, I think was his average lands per minute or something is, I want to say it was like, but I think it was 9 or 8 or something like that.
It's like 8 point something, I think. 8.9
Yeah,
something.
and that's fucking insane at 205.
That's high output for big dudes, yeah.
That's insane at 185. You don't see those numbers until you get down to the small guys.
That's
where
Max
they're fucking
Holloway.
swinging 1,000 miles an hour all the time.
That's Max Holloway's average is 8 something per minute.
Yeah, that's crazy for a guy that big compared to a guy of Holloway's size. That all he's doing that whole time he's coming out, just bop 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 bop. That's
He's working.
He works. Downside to that, because he's a big muscle bound cocksucker, you get him past that second round, he's in deep doo doo in the third. He'll be sucking wind.
Takes a
We've
lot of
never seen
oxygen.
it. We don't know.
Yep.
We don't
We've never
know.
seen it. We don't know. The dude's a wrestler. Like wrestlers have good fucking cardio.
It's true.
This is true, but
We don't know. We don't know what he's like in the third. We don't know what he's like.
look at the
fucking
muscle
knows?
mass on him. Look at his muscle mass.
Full heel hat. I'm going full fucking heel hat.
All right,
Doubling
I
down.
have to say it. All right, let's pull this into a little anatomy and physiology lesson here. All of that muscle uses a lot of fucking oxygen, especially when you're out there rocking
High
sock
performance.
robot style.
Yep.
Oh, I mean, he may have the cardio to do it, and if he does, fucking hats off and stays off, because that's fucking impressive for anybody. Hey, look, I think if Clark can get it into the late rounds, and by late rounds I mean halfway through the second,
Yeah, past the halfway point of 2, yeah.
he'll have a good chance of winning, but he's gonna have to avoid that early onslaught. I honestly don't know how he's gonna do it.
Nobody's
I
done
have
it.
to go with Metafield on this one, just purely on the fucking volume. Until somebody figures that out on him, he's gonna be a hard train to stop.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying it's going to be easy by any stretch of the imagination. I absolutely understand the fucking monster that Metafield is coming in absolutely deserving being justified as. But I also think that Devin Clark, based on what we've seen, because he's also got a fucking strong wrestling background as well, and we saw that his last time out, and he's got real good hands, but that motherfucker is fluid. And I think he's going to have enough, but we will absolutely see on that one, because that's going to be a great fucking fight either way. Now, like I said, they really haven't done a lot of promotion work for these early and the prelim fights. And the funny thing is they made such a big point early on about how the reason it's important to keep fights on the prelims and to have an early prelims unto itself instead of just having one gigantic card like some events do is that if you have these multiple splits, if you have a prelim and a regular card, if you have an early prelim and a prelim, you can have a premier fight on each of them. So each little section of the show gets its own little highlight. The premier prelim fight on these earlies is fucking spectacular. The theme of this weekend is the bantamweight division on fucking display. The little guys are running the fucking house this weekend, and we're even going down for the great matchup that is going to be our early prelim premier battle. That's a fucking lot of words for a fight. Jussier Formega versus Alex Perez. This is going to be one of those fights where you're not going to want to blink, because this is going to be you crank up, you put the car down, and then you step back because these motherfuckers are going to go. These are two guys who are both completely capable of going full on ape shit from the opening bell until the closing bell, and it does not matter if it stays on the feet, if it goes to the ground, if they're doing fucking cartwheel kicks and fucking capoeira across the ring. These two guys both have the gas tank and the ability to keep fucking going at full speed. This is the reason we like the little guy fights, because these motherfuckers come out with the pedal to the floor and it stays there till the fight ends one way or another. This is going to be a great fucking matchup in my opinion. I like Alex Perez. He has got a lot of fucking potential in his future, but he still feels a little unpolished to me, and we have seen Formiga on a mission be a fucking world breaker. And right now he knows that if he wants another chance to stay in the top, to get another run at the belt, he has got to make a fucking statement here. I think he's going to do it.
He needs it bad.
Yeah, he needs this win, and he knows he needs it, and I think he's going to get it.
You know,
I go for it.
I was gonna say, there's one thing these two have in common. The only loss these guys have had in like their last 2 or 3 years is to the same person, Joseph Benavidez, who just got his ass whipped for the title not long ago.
Yeah.
Which, albeit unto themselves, they're both on a phenomenal tear.
Fuck yeah.
However, I have to say the quality of wins here in my book goes to Formiga. He's had some tougher fights.
Yes.
However, I'm not saying Perez is a slouch by any means, because he's been on his way up. He's that new breed of
they didn't give him any easy fucking path or any easy steps on his path for sure.
Like, as much as I want to say Formiga should easily win this, I don't think that's the case. I think this very well could be a toss-up fight, and tell me I'm wrong, but I have this strange feeling this fight could very well be fight of the night. Like, this is this right here has fight of the night written all over it on this fight, because these two, if anybody has watched them in their last, let's just say their last 3 bouts apiece, fucking absolute killers. I mean, granted, Formiga did lose one of those last 3 bouts, and that was to Benavidez right before Benavidez got the title shot. But that's neither here nor there. I'm just saying, these guys are fucking on tear, and it's going to be amazing to watch. I'm saying fireworks, fight of the night. And I have a feeling... The what?
So is this even Dark Horse?
I can't even call it a dark horse.
Yeah, I think it's pretty.
No,
it's pretty clear. I think.
Guys, I can't call it a dark horse because they're way too fucking. They got too much horsepower, in my opinion. And what's really great, both of these guys have put people away quite often. So I have a feeling somebody's getting put away. I'm not sure who, but somebody is getting put away here. If I was gonna lay money on it, though, just over quality of wins or quality of opponents, I would have to give it to Formiga. But I can't take anything away from Perez because he's been on the up and coming list. He hasn't been at that top for a long time like Formiga has. So it very well could be Perez.
When's the last time Formiga got a title shot? Has he ever gotten one?
I don't know that he's ever officially gotten one. I know the last talks were right before Henry and fucking DJ shook everything up. Was that Formiga was still in the conversation?
Yeah.
I don't
but
know
then
that
he
he's
took
ever.
His loss.
Yeah, and then he ate that L.
So, I mean, like I said, Formiga really needs this. Like, if he wants to get in the conversation for a title shot, like, he needs this bad. And getting your name up right now, like, that's huge.
It's a big deal.
That's huge. The belt just got vacated. Like, it's time. It's your time, Formiga. And I think he's well, I mean, they've both been fighting for a bit.
Yeah.
And I think Formiga's a little bit more polished of a fighter. So I think this gets stopped probably in like the second, probably like late second. But this is just going to be nonstop. 2 dudes just like both of them. If whoever wins this fight is in the conversation.
Yeah,
absolutely. Is in the conversation for maybe not the next title shot, but the title shot.
They're in line. Yeah, they're absolutely in line.
They're in line. They're in line for sure. So, yeah, This is just gonna be 2 dudes with a lot on the fucking line, just going for it. I think for me, I think it's starting to be either it's either this is his moment to really get into the picture, or like this is it, dude. Like, sorry, you've had your shots. It's Alex Perez's turn.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'm giving it to Fournier because I think he's a little bit more polished of a fighter. But this honestly, this fight's gonna be
It's gonna be
incredible, and it
great.
could go any direction, any direction. So I mean, if you're tuning in for the free fights, like this is the one to watch. Like
Yeah. Fucking A, it is.
this is gonna be the shit. And if you watch this fight and you watch these two guys, you'll understand why I'm always so excited about the little guy fights,
Yep.
because it's nonstop fucking action. It never ends. Even if they go to the ground, like both of them will just be fucking scrambling like crazy,
Yep.
and like a submission will come out of nowhere. You're like, how the fuck did you hook that in? I
Yeah.
have no idea.
Yeah, those are the ones
But
that
it's
you have to
gorgeous.
watch. You have to watch the fucking slow-mo replay so you can like, oh shit, oh yeah, it looks like a fucking ball of rats turning into a fucking rat king in real time, and then you're like, holy shit, he did 9 fucking moves and a twist while we were watching and blinking. Like fuck.
Yeah, yeah. These fights are the little dude fights are always the best, and that's not just because I'm a little dude. So
Absolutely.
this fight, like TJ and Meter were saying, this has the ability to be fight of the night. Both these dudes will not stop.
Yeah.
So
So, I will say this. This will bring us into the actual prelims. I don't know why or how, but from this point on, when I did my breakdowns and my notes here, everything kind of switches. I have very little doubt about the breakdowns and the predictions that I've given for the first 3 here, but from here on out, everything just felt a little weird looking through and making my calls. The first one I'm going to talk about real quick here actually isn't happening. That's why I want to talk about it first here. We found out that the Gerald Mearshart versus Ian Heimish fight is not happening. Just confirmed, one of Ian Heimish's cornermen has been tested positive for the Backstreet Boys, and as a precaution, Ian is being pulled off the card as well, because obviously they were fucking literally contact to contact for the last week or so. So as a general precaution, that fight has been scrapped.
sucks.
Unfortunate, because that was going to be a great fucking fight
That
as
was
well. Hopefully they
another two
will,
dudes who needed a win.
yeah, hopefully they will run with the theme that they have been going with lately, and then once this is all cleared up, they will get that rebooked onto another card, because we still have plenty of time for the rest of this year. The one that I do want to bring in and start talking about here on the prelims is the one they are actually going to be opening the prelim card with, another little guy matchup. This one a little bit different, though. Cody Stamen versus Brian Kelleher.
Kelleher.
This is the point where I think the best way to describe it is my MMA math brain and my remembering picks versus recent event outcomes heart have come in conflict with each other trying to make a decision here. I fucking love Cody Stamen, and that motherfucker is as solid as can be, and I have very little doubt that he has all the tools and abilities he needs to absolutely take this fight. I don't agree that Brian Kelleher is as good as the hype he has been getting, in my opinion, and watching him spend more of his time doing social media shit with MMA fighting and with Ariel Helwani as opposed to training when you've got serious fights like this coming up just gives me a bitter taste in my mouth trying to give him any kind of credit. On the other hand, knowing me making picks like this where logically that would be an understandable assumption to make has also backfired in my fucking face like 85% of my last couple weeks picks. I have very little doubt in my mind that Cody Stamen is going to abso-fucking-lutely tromp the shit out of Brian Kelleher. The problem is my heart goes, hey, dipshit, remember the last couple times you said that? So I have to believe that Brian Kelleher is probably actually going to win this fight.
I think Brian Kelleher needs the fight when Cody Stamen does. Um, and if this goes to the ground, I mean, Cody Stamen
He's a
could
monster.
he could control the shit out of this fight.
Yeah.
And for as little as these two dudes are, like that's not the sort of fight I want to see out of it. I really want to see these two just swinging for the fucking fences like the prelims. And
Right.
there's an off chance that they both decide that that's how this fight is going to go. Um, this one I could say is potential dark horse fight of the night. Um, I think it's a really interesting contrasting styles because Kelleher's he's gonna go for it. Like
Yeah.
he's just gonna fucking go balls to the wall, and there's nothing stopping him. Where Cody Stamen might try and take him down and control him, move him around, and then work whatever submission he can get in, or try and get in a ground and pound. Not that I think it would work all that successfully against Brian Keller if he decided to ground and pound him, because it'd probably take a couple shots and just be like, what?
Right.
He's kind of a crazy son bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I my heart tells me that this is Cody Stamen's fight to lose, because I think he's got the ability to control Brian Kelleher. I think he's got the ability to do it. Does he actually do it? Who fucking knows? There's a puncher's chance in everything. So
Right.
my heart tells me that this is Stamen's fight to lose. But I would absolutely not be surprised to see this go to like a 3-round decision.
Yep.
And
Keller point him out.
And Keller points him out. Yeah, I would not be surprised by that. I would love to see that, actually, if they went the full 3 and just full throttle fist to the face with some interspersed groundwork there.
Right. Yeah.
To change the palette up a little bit.
15 minutes of insanity.
Yeah.
Look, I'm not going to do MMA math here. There's only one thing this fight comes down to me, and it's what Brian Kelleher shows up. And purely because, look, we've seen there's flashes of greatness in Brian Kelleher, but he's not been able to string those flashes of greatness together fight after fight after fight.
And this is
He's
really
been very hot and then extremely fucking cold, where he's went from, goddamn, he looks like he might make a run at the title too. Why did I say that last week?
Yep.
If you get that Brian Kelleher with those flashes of greatness, Cody Stamen doesn't stand a chance in fucking hell. But if you get that Brian Kelleher who just doesn't show up, this is Stamen's all day. In fact, I'm gonna, just because I don't know which Brian's gonna show up, I have to go Cody Stamen, purely for that reason of he's not been the most reliable.
Yeah, consistency.
His consistency has been fucking terrible.
Yeah, it's not his strong suit for sure.
There's been fights that I watch him and I'm going, God damn, he's fucking amazing. And then there's other fights I'm going, he's a fucking scrub. Get him out of here.
Yep.
I'm going, look, if he was the happy middle guy, I would be happy. But he hasn't figured out which one he wants to be. When he figures out which train tracks that fucking train is rolling down, we'll know. But I want to see him string 2, 3, 4 fights together to where he's looking good in every one of them. Don't get me wrong. He really is a legitimately good fighter, but I don't think his mind's there all the time by the way he shows up for some of those fights.
Yeah, he seems like he's easily distracted from the fight game.
Yeah. Cody Stamen, on the other hand, he's been a pretty good, solid staple, albeit he's had some really tough fights and he's lost some of those tough fights.
Yeah,
but when you're fighting the bigger guys in the top of the fucking ranks there...
Yep. That's what I was going to say. If you look at the losses that he has, they're not to fucking soup cans, man. He's only really lost to fucking top of the peak guys.
Oh, yeah, he lost to Aljamain Sterling,
yeah.
And, I mean...
Well, soup cans and Aljo.
Well, you know, still, to be honest, hate to say it, Cody Stamen's not as good as Aljamain Sterling. I'll say it.
On some days, maybe.
Hate it or not, that it is what it is. But to be honest, I think Brian Kelleher is better than both of them, as long as he shows up.
Right. And
it's all going to depend on whether he shows up or not. So right now, my vote's with Cody Stamen purely because I don't know which Brian Kelleher is going to show up. Is he showing up in a limo or a fucking hoopty?
Right. Oh, look, and the video froze again. Perfect time. We'll refresh real quick, and then we'll jump right on.
puberty anytime soon, dude?
Uh,
What,
There we
19
go.
or?
he's 20.
Oh yeah, that's right. He celebrated his 20th birthday after his last fight.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's
He said, "I'm gonna go home
And
and have."
he's fighting a dude. He's fighting a dude that's. Oh,
there we go.
this could.
Okay.
Yeah.
Should we?
That
We
almost
should.
got out of hand while you were gone. We almost skipped right to another fight, and they wouldn't have had another fucking thought about it.
There we go. We are officially back. Okay. No, that will actually bring us on to the fight that I was just getting ready to talk about. The other one that I want to talk about on the prelim card itself. The
I think it's
quote
the only
unquote.
one left on the prelim card at this point.
There's
Unless
one.
they-
There's one other one, but it's full
Oh.
fluff. So it's just yeah.
Okay, let's
Um,
ignore it.
Yeah. But the one that I did want to talk about here, the premier prelim fight for the evening, Alex Bruce Leroy Caceres versus Chase Ben Askren Jr. Hooper. This is gonna be a fucking crazy little guy matchup, but I think this is gonna be a little bit more, for my money, this is gonna be more of a chance for mini Ben Askren to kind of reintroduce himself. His name is Hove, H to the OV, to show people who the fuck he actually is, because as nice as his last victory was, it kind of got outshined by the whole he was too young to get a beer, so he went to the M&M factory and custom made M&Ms as a celebration. Like, that's
He's still too young to get a beer.
yeah, that's like both wholesome and disgusting at the same time. You fucking adorable little pure heart shit. God damn you.
It looks like he's fucking
Fly
12.
to
Yes.
Canada and get ripped, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. At this
Oh, wait,
point,
Canadians might not be letting Americans in. Never mind.
right, not yet. Oops. But at this point, Alex Caceres is basically just a fucking punching bag. That dude is so far removed from being any kind of a legitimate, relevant contender in that division. It's almost insulting to some of the soup cans trying to make their way into the UFC that he is still here. That being said, I kind of feel like this is his basically your shit or get off the pot moment. They're throwing you to a guy who is speed climbing the fucking ladder towards the top and making leaps and bounds every time we see him out there. Have not really seen him look bad yet, and we have seen Alex Caceres just be a fucking rolling dumpster fire for a hot minute now. It really feels like the UFC is giving Caceres that, look, if you can't fucking do something here, then we're going to send you to fucking Bellator speech. And for what it's worth, Chase Hooper might not be that fucking guy you want to have that situation thrust upon you against, because that fucking kid has got a bright goddamn future. He is fucking long, he is lanky, and he uses every inch of his Stretch Armstrong fucking body to give you problems from everywhere. On the feet, on the ground. That fucking long-legged sumbitch is going to be an issue for you, especially in a guy like Caceres, who tends to be flashy, tends to be bouncy, tends to keep his fucking hands low and play real loose with his fucking guard. You're giving Chase Hooper all the ammunition he needs to put on a fucking clinic, and I think he's going to do it.
Yeah, Alex Caceres. I mean, the one thing he doesn't have to worry about in this fight is getting hit too hard. He might get hit from some weird angles,
Right.
but I mean, Chase Hooper can't punch his way out of a fucking wet paper bag. He'll throw some shots, but I mean, anybody at this point of the game will throw some shots. But that's not his game. His game is get you a couple kicks, get you a couple punches, and then tap you the fuck out so that he
Wrap
can
you
go
up.
get some more M&Ms.
Yep.
And I mean, that's exactly what's going to happen in this fight, unless the puncher's chance happens. Like that is the off chance that. And Bruce Leroy, I mean, if anybody's got that puncher's chance, I suppose it's him.
Wow.
My problem with Caceres is he loves to counter, and there's not going to be a whole lot to counter here.
Yeah.
So, I think this is probably going to be the least exciting of the little guy fights. But watch them just duke it out for 3 rounds.
Yeah,
and
no shit.
And it'd be fucking amazing. But that's not how Chase Hooper fights. And there's a reason he's 9-0. It's because he's going to get him down at some point, and he's going to tap him out. He's going to work him. He's going to work him like the U.S. government worked me for 9 years, and then put him out to the pasture. So I have no doubts Chase Hooper's winning this fight. I have absolutely no doubts. And dude, go get some custom M&Ms, like some peanut butter banana M&Ms or some shit like that. Go, buddy.
Yeah, I'm 100% behind the both of you. Chase Hooper is definitely not going to knock Alex Caceres out on the feet. And I
No.
say on the feet because he did win his last fight in the UFC, his debut with a TKO, but it was on the ground.
Yeah.
And he does have some good ground and pound, but he also has phenomenal fucking jiu-jitsu. And that scariness of the jiu-jitsu is what led to his ground and pound victory, which, I mean, watching that dude throw a punch when he was standing up, he is literally a smaller version of Ben Askren punching. He needs to get a striking coach quick.
Yeah, he does.
Mainly because he is such a great grappler that anybody who figures out how to not let his hands get on them, he's going to have a really bad day. If Caceres has figured that out, Hooper's going to
He's
have
been around a while.
Caceres has been on a fucking just terrible spiral. The only thing that keeps him in the news is his fucking afro and how much shit he talks. That,
Yeah.
to be honest, he isn't even. When's the last time that he had a legitimate fight that was good and where he showed greatness? I don't honestly remember. Um, I'd have to look it up to be quite honest, because
That's what I'm doing right now.
I mean,
Uh,
it had to have been a year or two ago at least, and it may have been longer than that. Because I mean, well,
uh
yeah, everything he's had is being via decisions. As I'm looking here, they've been
Rolando die.
decision. Oh, yeah, that was in 2017.
Yeah, I mean that. I don't remember that fight being all that great though, off the
Yeah,
top of my head.
there hasn't been anything.
Cole Miller, the fight he had with Cole Miller back in 16, that was a good one.
Yeah, I mean, the dude's been around for quite some time. Like when he first came into the UFC, he had a ton of hype behind him to where it looked like he very well could have just an amazing run. I mean, but that all fell apart.
Yeah.
Yeah, hard.
And since then, we've seen him, for lack of better terms, he's fought in soup cans and won by decision against soup cans.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
most of the time. Yeah.
In this case, Hooper is not a soup can. I
Fuck
hate to tell
no.
everybody this, albeit he can't punch with the shit on his feet. He is not a soup can by any means. That Stretch Armstrong knows how to get a hold of people and get them to the ground. Then that's his world. I don't think there's anybody in the featherweight division right now that is good on the ground as Hooper is.
Yeah.
You'd be hard pressed to find him. You'd be
Yeah.
real hard pressed.
I totally agree.
I have to give this to Hooper. I say he gets it done in the second round. And I don't know whether it's going to be ground and pound like his last fight or if he's going to end up using his BJJ to get a submission. Although being Caceres is a pretty seasoned veteran, I don't think it's going to be the ground and pound route because he's pretty good at covering up from the bottom.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be more likely Hooper gets a submission.
I think so as well.
Like rear naked choke or possibly a head and arm.
Yeah, that's what I feel as well. I think Chase is going to wrap him the fuck up and choke him out. But
who knows? We've been wrong a lot lately.
I was
I'm
gonna
praying
say,
to God, this is not the one because I want old M&M's here to do well because I want to hear what kind of M&M's he gets.
Yeah, I like to see the kid do well.
Besides,
We'll have
nobody
to see, though.
12-year-old get beat up by an adult.
Right, it's just not nice. But that will bring us into
Who let that 11-year-old in there? He's mighty
Right?
tall.
No, that will bring us into the actual meat and potatoes segment of the meat and potatoes segment here on the show. The actual main card. The final course here. The one we've been waiting for. Salivating at the mouth. And they're opening up with a very interesting match. The former title contender, Eddie Wineland, taking on the reappearance of the Sugar Show, Sean O'Malley. Again, little guys on display. This one is going to be a weird one to watch because Sean O'Malley has only really given us, I think it was 3 minutes or something like that in the last 2 years inside the octagon. He's done more Fortnite tournaments than he has UFC fights in the last couple of years. He also did more steroids than he did fighting in the last 2 years, which is why he sat on the fucking sidelines. He's claiming that it was supplement gate, but unlike Yoel Romero and several others who have made that claim, he has not had any evidence to support him as of yet. So we will see if that ends up coming down the road. But as of now, he just looks like another juice head, just a tinier one. I will say there were a few glimpses of Sean O'Malley having potential, but it almost feels like as soon as you see him do something good in the octagon, he immediately outweighs it the second you put a microphone in front of him. This man has diarrhea of the mouth. He can't shut the fuck up. Ever. And it's one thing in that he says he's very much modeling his style after Conor McGregor, and I get that. But the reason Conor McGregor can talk like that is because he's already established himself. He's already shown you, if I tell you I'm going to fuck you up, I'm going to fuck you up, and then I'm going to go drink with your girlfriend. Sean O'Malley, as of right now, when he tells you he's going to fuck you up, he's going to go take some Flintstone vitamins and then get on his Vespa scooter and go cruise around town. You don't get to make the same claims that the big boys do until you've done what the big boys have done. Eddie Wineland, we have seen at the top of the stack for a hot minute here. He is no fucking slouch, even though he may not be a household name, which is sometimes the case with the smaller guys. Eddie Wineland is a bad motherfucker. He is a very legitimately well-rounded fighter. He can handle himself on the feet, on the ground. He's got good defense. He's got good good foot movement. He's got good head movement. He keeps his hands nice and crisp without keeping him down at his waist like a lot of these little guys who get cocky do, Sean O'Malley. I feel like this is basically the moment where Eddie Wineland either gets to reestablish himself at the top of that division and someone who needs to be paid attention to, or he's going to become, unfortunately, the next stepping stone in Sean O'Malley's blurt campaign through the megaphone here. This is, again, one of those, my brain says Eddie's done everything right. He's got everything going for him. He should win this fight. And then my heart goes, oh yeah, look what happened the last time you knew somebody had everything it took to beat this steroid-using moron. My favorite mustache in the fucking UFC got defeated, and it still hurts my heart to talk about it, god damn it. So, my brain tells me that Eddie Wineland should fucking win this, and my heart tells me to shut the fuck up because Sean O'Malley's gonna win, and I'm not gonna like it.
Yeah. I mean, as much as I'd love to see the tattoo get punched off Sugar Sean O'Malley's fucking face,
Yeah.
he hasn't lost yet. Like steroids, whatever, he hasn't lost yet. And he's fighting a dude that's he's not at the tail end of his career, but he's certainly approaching gatekeeper status.
Right.
Yeah, and until Sugar Sean loses, like I think I said the same thing last time, is that I don't know that he's going to lose because Wineland is not. He's not the type of fighter that I think would give him trouble. He'll go for a takedown, but I mean, Sugar Sean can work on the ground.
Yep.
You go fist to fist with him, Sugar Sean will win that fight. So until he proves it, I gotta go with O'Malley. I would love to see him take his first L here. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy, but stylistically, I don't see this being a problem for him. He's quicker, he's faster, he hits harder. This is Sugar Sean's fight to lose. He may come to the ring on his Vespa, wouldn't he?
Oh,
He really might.
He'll come to the octagon on his Vespa.
This is such a terrible situation.
Like I do not want to see Wineland lose to Sugar Sean O'Malley, but I just don't see how. I don't see his path to victory in my mind, other than the puncher's chance.
I'm in the same boat here. And the worst part of this is Anybody who has watched any of the lead up here to the fucking fights on the, you can fuck on to the UFC's webpage, go on to their YouTube page. We're literally going to be watching Bozo the Clown take a W here. That dude, look, he has his hair dyed like he's a fucking clown. It looks like a goddamn clown wig. It's fucking ridiculous, for one. Look, if you're trying to pull fans that way, that's probably not the way to do it. One is to not do fucking steroids. Two, stop running your fucking mouth. Just go in there, do your job. Thank the guy next to you. Run your mouth when you actually are worth something. And when I say worth something, I mean you're fucking in the top 5. You're not anywhere near that level yet. So stop running your mouth. Stop letting your coach run his mouth, because he ran his mouth a fucking lot on the fucking
so much
blog leading up to it. And that dude, I wanted to reach through my fucking phone and strangle the shit out of him, because I was like, you're not the fighter, shut the fuck up. Yeah. It's okay for the coach to say a fucking few things, but the way he was running his mouth and talking trash.
Yeah, he was talking shit like they were gonna fucking go 2-on-1 him and the coach was gonna jump. Like, no, man, that guy is bad fucking news, but man.
Not here to talk about your coach, even though your coach is a fucking scumbag, obviously. You obviously need better people around you, because they've allowed you to do fucking the roids. They've allowed you to say stupid shit. They've allowed you to fucking dye your hair so you look like a fucking circus clown that should be getting out of a car that's stuffed with 40 people when it should, in theory, only fit one. I'm just saying, it's fucking ridiculous. It just, know that we're going to have a clown that gets a W. As much as I would like to say Eddie Wineland is for sure going to win this, I don't think that's the case, because he really has turned in kind of a gatekeeper type role in the 135-pound division. And that's an unfortunate thing, because he's had a lot of good runs in him, but I think he's on that back nine of his career where this is where he fits in best.
Yep. I agree. And then the next fight that we've got right up on the card here is almost like a mirror image of that. It's very similar in the theme, but it's kind of opposite in the way that it breaks down. Neil Magny versus Anthony Rocco Martin is very much a similar matchup to Eddie Wineland versus Sean O'Malley, but in a little bit of a different way. Neil Magny was actually one of the ones, unlike Sean O'Malley, who did test positive for steroids, said that it was contaminated supplements, and then was exonerated by those contaminated supplements via the Nate Diaz situation that happened and almost didn't result in a matchup because of it. The situation where Nate Diaz had mysteriously popped hot for metabolites that he guaranteed he didn't take because he was full vegan, and those metabolites are generally associated broken down with meat. They ended up going back, doing a speed processing on Nate Diaz's sample, found out that there was a supplement that was tainted that Nate Diaz took, that he turned in his sample, they verified, confirmed it was the same thing, and that's the thing that Neil Magny had said 15 months before that he had been taking, but didn't have the focus of importance of the UFC at the time like Nate Diaz had, so he literally had to sit on the sidelines innocent, put his supplements up, but because he wasn't a top tier fighter at the time, he didn't get the precedence that Nate Diaz did. Well, when Nate Diaz's situation shook loose, Neil Magny was literally the first person at the top of the list who got exonerated and apologized to, and is getting put back into the mix now. Subsequently, on the other side from him, we have got another gentleman who has been around a bit, but unlike Eddie Wineland, Anthony Rocco Martin has never made it to the top of the mountain. He came in like a firework and then plateaued real fucking fast, and has sailed the majority of his UFC career at fair to Midland, and is starting to lose a little bit of tailwind here. I'm not saying he's putting 18 yet, but that motherfucker can see the clubhouse on his walk up, I'll tell you that much. Neil Magny, on the other hand, was legitimately on a hell of a fucking tear before this whole situation with supplements came into play and literally yanked him completely out of the conversation and the competition here. So this is a bit of a mixed bag. We're getting a Neil Magny who we knew was a legitimate fucking problem, who we've seen in his time off still competing in the submission undergrounds or the wrestling grappling competitions to stay active. We've seen him staying in his gym when he was allowed to, obviously, but he stayed at it. He hasn't taken a day off knowing that he was innocent, and he would get thrown back in without getting a chance to really get his feet back underneath him. So he made sure he was prepared for a situation like this. I think he has got everything in place here to just make Rocco Martin out to be the soup can that he is starting to become at this point. Granted, like we say, Rocco Martin always has that puncher's chance, but I think in this situation, that's all he's really got. And I think Neil has more than enough to nullify that.
Yeah, you're muted, TJ. Oh, I'll go. Neil Magny. His win, he won over what, Jiang Lang?
Yep.
Is that who he beat?
Jiang,
yep. Jiang Lang.
The leech.
I can't say his name right now.
That was a decision.
Yeah.
It wasn't pretty.
No.
It was not a pretty fight.
It was hard earned.
It was harder. It was a very hard earned fight. I expect a similar fight to this. I don't know. I mean, this Neil Magny should win this fight, but he hasn't. I don't expect a dominant win over it. I don't expect a dominant win out of him at this point. He hasn't shown me a dominant win since he came back.
Nope.
This might be the one.
It could be, but that's why I was saying this is a
kind of
perfect
weird
example. Like
It's kind of a weird fight for little guys.
Yeah, like your brain says that Neil Magny should be able to walk right fucking through this, show that he didn't miss a beat, but at the same time, my fucking heart is like, yeah, dude, that's the way that it always fucking works. So watch Rocco Martin knock him out in the first.
Yeah. I mean, Rocco Martin, he might be soup can-ish, but he's got a chance.
Yeah.
And
I have to say,
this is if Magny keeps this on the feet and works the same game plan he did, like this is his fight to lose. But if he gets taken down, he could be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, Martin's strong, man.
He
really is.
or if he gets controlled up against the side of the cage, I don't know that he could get out of it at this point.
Yeah.
So my heart tells me Neil Magny, this should be his fight, but Rocco could be a problem for him. It's there's gonna be one chest. Yes.
there we go. I'm gonna go completely against the grain on both of you guys here. I say Neil Magny wins this without a shadow of a fucking doubt.
Nice.
No doubt in my mind whatsoever. Look, he was on a fucking fantastic run until that whole tainted supplement shit. He got fucked because he wasn't a big enough name, so they weren't going to speed him through the process. They weren't going to mitigate his suspension or anything like that. He literally got bent over. They rolled their dick in the sand, stuffed it in his ass with no lubrication. Look, he got screwed. That last fight is the result of 15 months off. That's what that is. Nothing more, nothing less. Yes, hard-earned victory, but that was him knocking the ring rust off. But he still won against a very solid fucking opponent.
Absolutely. Like, the leech is nothing to be overlooked.
Very good opponent.
Look, I'll call myself on this one. When we did the breakdown for that fight, I remember saying Neil Magny will not win this fight because I thought Jin Jiang was on his fucking way because he'd been looking phenomenal. Neil Magny put in some work on him
Yep.
and some very good work. Like once it got into the late second round and third round there, it was all Magny. It was still a tough fight for him, but I think this is Neil Magny's fight to lose, without a shadow of a doubt. No offense to Anthony Rocco Martin, he's been here for a long time, for since what 2016 or 17. So he's been around for quite a while now. Unfortunately, his train never really left the station to gain any big notoriety behind it.
Right.
But he's been around for a while. But Magny, in that same time, while he was around, he was way far ahead of where Anthony Rocco was, and he continues to be that way. So I think this is all Neil Magny's fight to lose. I think that last one was more of a tune-up fight. I think this is going to be that Neil Magny of old that we were seeing before it comes out in this fight.
I think that's absolutely a possibility. That's what I'm hoping for. That's legitimately what I'm hoping for. I really do hope that we get to see the Neil Magny that we used to enjoy seeing, because he would come out and put on a fucking show during his dominant performances. And I'm hoping we see that again. Hoping. But that will bring us to this one more than most recently, the People's Co-main event for the evening. This one is undeniably the number one contender spot for the 135-pound division. The only reason that this fight is the number one contender's fight for the bantamweight division is because, for some goddamn reason that none of us are able to understand, Dana White has it in his head that Jose Aldo is the most deserving person in the world of a 135-pound title shot, despite him only having competed in that weight class one time, and it was a loss. Controversial though it may be, it's a loss. If you have one fight in a division and you lose it, that in no universe should qualify you for a title shot. I don't care what you've done in other divisions. If your first fight in a new division is a loss, you don't then get a title shot. We have to stop this Holly Holm mentality that Dana White is giving to everyone. It's really starting to fucking hurt the fandom. That being said, Aljamain Sterling versus Corey Sandhagen is confirmed the number one contender fight. The winner of this match gets the next shot after whoever has the belt left over from Peter Yan and Jose Aldo. So when Peter's done cleaning Jose off of his fists, he's going to fight either Aljo or Corey Sandhagen here. That being said, this is a crazy fucking matchup. Corey Sandhagen, for my and a lot of the world's money, is the number 2 guy in the 135-pound division, only behind Petr Yan. Petr Yan is undeniably the guy. There's a reason he is the only name that has been mentioned, guaranteed fighting for that belt. And the other players have come and gone and interchanged. That being said, Aljamain Sterling is coming off of nearly 2 years on the sideline and multiple injuries and surgeries, to the extent that just a little over a month ago, he was doing interviews showing that he still couldn't close his hand enough to make a full fist. Before that, we absolutely saw Aljamain Sterling making his fucking mark and stamping his name solidly in the top contention of the division. But it's been a minute since we've seen him doing that. Not to mention, you can't discredit the fact that Marlon took his soul when he kicked the fucking life out of him. So there is an argument to be made, but the matchup stylistically of Aljamain's very, very quick-paced, wrestling heavy but striking furiously style is going to match up very well with Corey Sandhagen's because he has a little bit of that himself. He's very pressure heavy. He's very pace oriented. The difference being for me here is that while Aljamain Sterling will use his wrestling to get you in a position to where he can pound you out, Corey Sandhagen will use that same momentum and that same pace to get you in a position so he can choke you out. And those two mentalities are very different, especially when you get to the top of the fucking peak in terms of the fighters, in terms of that weight class, this division. When you're looking at two guys who are very close to equal in terms of ability, the style is what makes all the difference. A puncher will always have a puncher's chance, but for a guy to have a choker's chance, he has to give it to himself. He has to take it from you. Necks aren't given. You have to position yourself to get them. That requires work. You can easily just throw a shot from the waist and land a lucky one. You got to work to get that choke, and that's what Corey Sandhagen likes. That's what he thrives off of. That's his bread and butter. That's what gets him excited, is being that little guy who can bang for 15 or 25 minutes, who can go all over the ring, who can wrestle with you, but he can also choke you the fuck out, and he's real goddamn good at it. But like I was saying earlier, this is one of those fucking weird things where my brain tells me Corey Sandhagen is the guy. It's going to be him versus Piotr Yan for the belt, and it's going to be a great fight when we get there. And then my heart tells me that based on the way my fucking luck and my picks have been running, that I'm going to keep saying great things about Corey Sandhagen, and then Aljamain Sterling is going to fucking win anyway.
As much as I would like to call a winner on this one, I really can't. Corey Sandhagen is, to be honest, I thought he was going to be one of the next up in line for the title shot. I honestly thought that Dana White was going to have him jump Aljamain Sterling and fight Prichia. I really thought that that's what was going to happen. But no, somebody's driven by money, because guess what? That name sells. I'm not mad at him. Smart business decision. Am I disappointed? Yes. Yeah. Mad? No, not by any means. Because guess what? In the current state of the union, you got to make some fucking money. Look, it is what it is. You want to pay the rest of those fighters that are on these cards that you're setting up, you have to have something that's going to pull in money. Putting Jose Aldo up there, that's going to make money. That name alone makes money. He is one of the, earlier when we were talking about being a small guy and not making any money, he's one of the few that can do it at this size. He's not going to do it as effectively as some of the other characters that we were talking about, but he still brings in more money than Sandhagen or Aljamain Sterling, for that matter, fighting Petria. That it is what it is, period. There's no other way around that. Sterling, he's had some really nice fights. Corey Sandhagen's been on a fucking tear, and he's been getting better every time around. I'm having a really hard time picking against Sandhagen. At the same time, love or hate Aljamain Sterling, he's been a fucking animal. This is a tough call. This here is my other fight of the night pick. I had two of them, and I can't call either one of them a dark horse because, to be quite honest, neither one of them are. These two motherfuckers are going to go fisticuffs. And the other thing that everybody's forgetting, right now, the octagon is 5 foot smaller.
25, not 30.
In diameter versus fucking the 30 foot that they normally have. It's 25 foot. You know what that means? You're forcing the action because people have less area to run.
Yep.
So these little guys, bantamweight, who already go 1,000 miles an hour, just saying, this is the other possibility of fight of the night right here. I'm calling it now because we've seen what Corey Sandhagen can do. We've all seen what Aljamain Sterling can do. Be it they both have their blemishes, but right now, I think Corey Sandhagen has a wee bit more momentum than Sterling. So if I have to pick one, I have to pull for Sandhagen on this one.
Well, that, and
It's tough to flip it around.
if you watch the latest embedded from this morning, when they brought them in, Aljamain Sterling did his walkthrough, did his check-in, went up, got ready to start getting in fight zone. I'm using air quotes for those listening. Corey Sandhagen, on the other hand, when they brought him in, they got him checked in because there is a procedure to that now with Backstreet Boys having everything going crazy. You have to get your temperature checked. You have to be signed off. You get your mask that's issued by them, or yours gets certified or whatever. You get your bracelet to show that you've been tested for the Backstreet Boys and you're good to go. And then Corey Sandhagen did something that I didn't see anyone else do, and it really just confirmed my belief in him. He asked the officials who were giving him the tour if he could go get in the octagon, and they told him as long as he takes his shoes off. So he immediately kicks his shoes off, has his corner man kick his shoes off, steps into the octagon to feel, because this is going to be the first time a lot of these athletes have ever fought in a 25-foot versus a 30-foot octagon. Most people don't even know there's different sizes. This is the 25-foot in the apex. So Corey Sandhagen gets in the octagon, does a quick little once around to kind of get the feel for it, and then calls his corner man in to push on him, to joust, to essentially fake against him, so he literally can adjust to the amount of room he has to move and to compensate. He literally stepped in to get a feel for how much room he had to work with.
So
I like that.
yeah. The thing about Corey Sandhagen is the last time we saw him fight, like I remember watching that fight, and I just thought this dude's impossible to take down. Like every time a shot was taken, like he just sprawled out, or he had the perfect defense for it. And he's just been improving and improving and improving, and his game is always getting sharper. And it's not like he was unskilled. It's not like he was ever unskilled in the octagon. He's just gotten better and better and better. And I have no doubt in my mind. You guys might say that this is a tough call. I have no doubt in my mind that Corey Sandhagen is going to take this, unless Aljamain Sterling gets that lucky puncher's chance. Like that's the only thing that's going to save him in this fight. I think it's going to be a wildly fun fight. I think that, as usual, the little dudes are gonna steal the show.
Yep.
And you're gonna see him all over this ring. But Corey Sandhagen has been a monster, and he's gotten more monstrous at his weight. So I have no doubt in my mind that this is Sandhagen's fight.
Nice.
No doubt at all.
Nice. I very much hope so. Like I said, everything in my fucking brain tells me that Sandhagen is on a fucking tear that's only going to be stopped by getting the belt wrapped around his fucking waist. But the way that my picks, right, yeah, either way. But like I said, the way that my fucking picks have been going, I want Corey to win so fucking bad, but I just have a feeling that because of that, it's gonna end up being Aldo somehow.
I'm as confident about this as I was last time about Gilbert Burns being able to take down Tyron Woodley. That's how confident I am about this one. I think I was the only one that took Gilbert Burns. But
I believe so.
I'm as confident about Sandhagen being able to take down Sterling.
Very interesting.
I'm that confident about it.
Very interesting.
That's why I threw the heel hat on.
That's why I let you go. That's why I let you go.
I'll be the bad guy. Aljamain Sterling, enjoy your nap.
So now that will bring us to the very fancy looking glass covered plate of au gratin potatoes that has a weird giant chunk of glass on one side of it here. It looks like it's pretty easily broken, but we'll see. The co-main event of the evening, Rafael Asunciao welcoming back Cody No Love Garbrandt. This is almost a laughable matchup, in my opinion. And I understand that you cannot deny the fact that at one point, Cody Garbrandt was the champion and had the belt around his waist. And arguably, made Dominic Cruz look worse than he has in his entire fucking career during the match that got him that bout. I will not dispute that in the least bit. The problem comes when you look at everything since that moment. And I get that he has been screaming at the top of his fucking lungs that Cody was on steroids the whole, or that TJ rather, was on steroids the whole fucking time, but USADA pulled his samples from back then. They went back and double retested those samples because Cody made such a stink about it. TJ himself even admitted the only time he ever used the juice was to fight Henry at 125. TJ just beat the shit out of Cody Garbrandt, not once, but twice, and not just beat him, beat the shit out of him and stopped him definitively. That was immediately followed by Cody arguably trying to get back on the horse, but stepping in against a fucking monster in Pedro Munoz, who, once again, 3 times in a row, shut the fucking lights off. Cody has a lot of skills, and I don't like him. I never did like him, but I always try and make a point. I will give credit where credit is fucking due. Cody Garbrandt has undeniable skills. But the other thing that Cody Garbrandt has that's undeniable is a chin who has been tested and found lacking. And in this business, that doesn't reverse itself in any situation under any circumstances. Once your chin goes, it is gone. And once it goes once, it is subsequently easier to trip that switch every time after that. There is no way to reverse it. This is one of the major reasons some of the best have had to stop. No matter how good you are, when that chin goes, it's gone and you can't fix it. Cody's chin left a long fucking time ago. It just didn't get a chance to get exposed until he got in there with TJ, but it has been exposed every time since then, and there has also been rumors of gym knockouts that were detrimental to training time of Corey in his off time since then. So it's not like this is just a once or twice thing. This is a recurring theme, and now we're even hearing it from some gym guys that were with him as well. I don't see a way for Cody to come out of this with a victory. This is essentially a chance for Rafael Asunciao to display why he belongs in the conversation at the top of the division. And then my brain tells me to shut the fuck up because the last time I said something confident like this, I look like a fucking idiot. So Cody Garbrandt's going to end up getting a lucky fucking second round knockout.
You know, this is interesting for me on more than one reason. Let's start here. Cody got worked in 2017 by Dillashaw. Didn't fight again for almost another year in 2018. Then promptly took another 8-9 months to March of last year. He's been shelved for over a year. Over fucking year. From what everybody's saying, media outlets, he had some shit to work out. He had injuries, he had mental problems, whatever. Hopefully he's worked his shit out. Because he did look very fantastic at one point.
Yep.
In fact, the way that he so prominently dispatched Cruz, I had an inkling that he was going to be at the top for a very long time. But he fell into that dangerous category of once you get into them silk sheets, it's hard to get up and train. And I think that's why he got his ass kicked. Not once, but twice. Because the first time, he wasn't training hard. The second time, Dillashaw was already in his head because he had already gotten spanked.
Yep, rent free.
Yep. And fucking that third fight there, he was on a skid. I'm hoping, because I'm not the biggest fan of Garbrandt. as a human being, he's not a bad person. If you look at what he did when he won the title, that was probably one of the greatest things I've ever seen inside the octagon.
Yeah,
Period.
that was very cool.
Bringing in the little kid that he's been friends with since the kid got cancer, helped him through his cancer treatments and everything, immediately handed him the belt. That was one of the coolest fucking things I've ever seen when he won the title. So, my eyes, decent human being. On the other hand, here you have Rafael Sanchao, who is no slouch right now at all. And to be honest,
Okay, we should be reconnected.
are we good?
OBS is showing good. Is it feedback yet?
But let us know if we're good. I see you out there.
I think it should be good.
Good now.
Okay. Yeah, OBS is just not fucking playing nice, apparently.
Well, in that case, I will shorten that up to the condensed version. They're both on skids. They both need a win. Don't know who's going to win because, to be quite honest, neither one of them have looked like them former selves. This is a toss-up to see who remains with the ranked number by their fucking side. I don't think... I think whoever loses this one is going to end up top 15, not even top 10.
This should be another fun fight. I don't see it lasting very long. Rafael Asensio is a tough motherfucker.
Fuck
And
yeah.
at this point of his career, Corey Garbrandt is not. He's not a tough man. I think this is TKO in the first. I just don't believe in Corey Garbrandt at all anymore. He's been turned off in the ring 3 times.
Hard.
Like Meter was saying, there's rumors that he's getting knocked out in his camp, and that's not where you get knocked out. Period. Your chin's gone, homie. He's got the puncher's chance. He's always got the puncher's chance. He in the past he was a great finisher. He's great at finishing these fights, but he's fighting a dude who does not get finished. Like he just does not get finished. Like this could go decision if he dominates the entire time. I just don't see it because Rafael Asensio is not going to get dominated. He's been around too long. He's gonna slip them fists, and it's going to be exciting. And I hope Corey Garbrandt does not get hurt.
Right.
That's my entire thoughts on this because he does seem like one of the legit good guys in this sport.
Yeah.
In a sport that's lacking in legit good guys.
Right. I absolutely I would agree with that. I think I would in this situation because I do think that Rafael Asensio should win this and has everything going for him lined up for that. And if he does, I do hope for a humane dispatching. An Alistair Overeem-esque gentlemanly ass whooping, if you will.
Yeah.
I don't want to see Cody get fucking hurt. I don't need to see him get fucking crippled or have his career ruined. I just think that the dude either has to start thinking about who he's going to coach, or he's going to have to go start finding some of those other leagues who are going to set him up in Pride-esque fights where it's clearly meant for him to walk in, dominate, look great, and walk away against the soup can. But against the top competition guys, it's just not there for Cody anymore, in my opinion. But that will bring us to the 16-ounce scissor steak that is our main event of the evening. This is one of the most potentially legitimate, I think is the best way to phrase, women's 145-pound title defenses we have seen since the weight class was introduced into the UFC. The women's 145-pound division consists of 7 women. 4 of those 7 are 135-pound women who just cut less weight and fight at featherweight sometimes. This is one of those rare exceptions. Amanda Nunes is legitimately a 145-pound, could potentially be a 155-pound women's fighter very easily. Mm-hmm. Felicia Spencer has spent the better part of her career, not just UFC, her career as a featherweight champion or title contender. She literally was chasing Cyborg through Invicta in the 145-pound division, was supposed to fight Cyborg in Invicta when Cyborg got the call-up to come to the UFC. So Felicia Spencer stepped in and became the new Cyborg of the 145-pound women's division in Invicta until she got the call-up to come to the UFC, where she got her chance to fight Cyborg and was one of the first women in history to take Cyborg to a decision. One of the first women in history to not just hit, but significantly strike and cut open Cyborg during a match. She fared better in one 3-round fight against Cyborg than possibly Cyborg's last dozen opponents combined did. She landed more shots against her. She looked better against her. She made Cyborg look human. And then look what happened the next time we saw Cyborg after she faced Felicia Spencer. That was the Goodnight Gracie moment. She got baby elephanted Ronda Rousey, Vibech Correia style, straight onto the fucking straight out of Compton sticker. She got put the fuck down. So there's something to be said about how fucking tough, how tenacious, and how well-rounded Felicia Spencer is, because to her credit, when Amanda Nunes beat fucking Cyborg into a fucking coma, she did it pretty quickly, she did it fairly simply, and there wasn't a whole lot of technique in it. It was basically a phone box moment, or a phone booth moment, rather. They got face to fucking face. Cyborg tried to swing, and Amanda swung harder and faster. There wasn't a lot of grace, there wasn't a lot of tact, there wasn't a lot of fight, period, when that happened. Versus what happened when Felicia got in there and was patient and took her time and withstood the storm that Cyborg can throw down, which is very much like what Amanda clearly can throw down. That's very much Amanda's strong suit. She will come at you like a fucking steamroller, and she can. But the problem that we have seen that Germaine Durandame exposed for us is that if you can get Amanda past the second round into the third round, moving in towards championship territory, she withers like a fucking daisy in sunlight. Amanda does not have 5-round continuous pace conditioning. She just doesn't. And that, again, comes back to part of what we talked about earlier. She is fucking shredded. And the problem with being shredded is that takes a lot of oxygen. When you're putting a high pace out, it's hard to maintain no matter what size you are if you're predominantly muscular, and that takes all your fucking energy. And that's kind of Amanda's strong suit. The thing that she's got going for her, in my opinion, is that's not her only tool. She's also a very good wrestler. She's also a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and can get you from many different angles. But she doesn't generally have to use that because she finishes most fights on the feet. She doesn't have to worry about the ground game. That's not this. Felicia can and will stand and trade. She can take those big shots. She can give big shots back. She can also go to the ground and hold her own. She as well has great fucking wrestling and great grappling. Maybe not the same black belt level of jiu-jitsu, but Felicia uses her grappling and uses her wrestling a lot more than Amanda does, and has the ability to withstand Amanda's strengths. So this is another one of those fucking weird situations that I cannot tell you how or why, but my brain is telling me that Felicia Spencer has every fucking thing she needs, tool-wise, fight IQ-wise, and ability-wise, to take the belt and become the new women's 145-pound champion. And then my heart tells me, hey, remember the last time you were that confident about someone because they should have been able to do that? And I think we're going to end up seeing Amanda knock her the fuck out in a second.
Oh, I had to completely disagree. I don't think Amanda knocks her out in the second. If Cyborg couldn't do it, Amanda's not going to do it. And look, MMA math doesn't work with this
Not on
because
this fight.
her and Cyborg, they were literally both swinging for the fences because they were out to prove a point against who was the biggest badass Brazilian in the fucking women's MMA.
Right.
And all that proved was those two know how to fucking throw bombs. Felicia Spencer, on the other hand, she went fucking 3 rounds to a decision with Cyborg. When is the last fucking woman that actually had a full fight where Cyborg didn't lose gone fucking to decision with her? It's been a very, very,
Strike
very
Force.
long time.
Yeah.
I can't name any in recent memory.
No, it's been at least a decade. At least a decade.
Oh,
Before Cyborg turned into Cyborg.
Yeah, when she was still Justina.
and you did bring up a very good point here, and this is something that I have noticed because the lioness is so fucking ripped. She gasses very much so. About midway through the second, you'll start to see her start to fade. That's why she went to takedowns when it came to fucking fighting Jermaine
Enemy.
Yep.
in the last fight there, because their enemy was picking her apart on the feet. And to be honest, had her fucking defense been a little bit better, I think she would have won that fight and we would have had a title change.
Absolutely.
Now, caveat to that statement, this is a weight class higher, so she doesn't have to cut as much weight. Her gas tank might be a little bit better, but I still think she's going to fade. The reason behind that is, when's the last time we seen Nunes go to a decision? We haven't lately. She's been finishing fights. And you know what? That is one of the greatest things about her. She's finishing them in the 145 women's and the 135 women's. So she's carrying her power up to 145. And her ability to pull out the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But she's got a fucking stacked opponent in Spencer here that has got a fucking great ground game. She can bang with the best of them. We've seen it already.
Yep.
And she can take a fucking punch. She has a fucking chin. She took the heaviest shots Cyborg could throw, and Cyborg could not put her out.
Yeah, a couple
that
times.
That says something right there.
A couple times
this
in that
fight is, in my personal opinion, this is the most dangerous fight Amanda Nunes has ever had. Now, here's where things get a little sketchy for me on this. I don't know that Amanda Nunes' head's going to be fully there in this game. She has a baby on the way.
Yep. And a pregnant wife in her corner.
Yeah, look, having the wife in the corner has never stopped her from anything before.
No.
But coming into parenthood, that is a whole different ball of wax. I know that from firsthand experience. If you'd asked me if I said anything about this 5 years ago, whatever, it doesn't fucking make a difference. No, it truly does make a difference because your mind isn't always where it should be when it comes to something like that. So I think that could play a large part. I won't say a large part, but a small part in this as to how she shows up. She's going to show up ready. She is a consummate professional. She never misses weight. Albeit they're tough weight cuts for her to get down to 135. She does not miss it. So there's no problem there. You know she trains hard. I know she can't train as hard as she would like because the wife is pregnant, and Nina Ansaroff is her go-to training partner.
Yep.
Which, hey, if it works, don't fucking fix it.
Right.
But in this case, I have to say, we're going to see and new. Spencer gets it done. And I don't, even though Spencer is saying she's going to put her away, I don't think she's going to put her away. That's a tall task.
Yeah.
It can be done, yes. But I don't think she puts her away. I think she wins it via decision. I really do. I'm going to say she's going to win via decision. She's going to take it 5 rounds of deep water. Nunes is going to get gassed.
All right. Uh, so Amanda Nunez, for those that are watching the show and are possibly casual, uh, is arguably the greatest women's fighter ever.
I
Period.
think arguably she is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's
She's,
definitive at this point.
yeah. So far, I mean, we're bound to see some. We're bound to see someone greater, because there's always somebody out there better than you.
She's the
But
Lady John Jones without the coke problem.
true. Yeah. I mean, she has been a monster. She continues to be a monster. She always finds ways to win, and I I have a really hard time picking against Amanda Nunez in any situation. That being said, I think this is a tougher fight than Cyborg. I, Felicia Spencer is tough. She's well-rounded. She will. She is smart. Felicia Spencer is an
Yeah.
incredibly smart fighter, and knowing, like, you can sit there and watch Nunez's fights. Like, she's highly publicized at this point. You can watch exactly what she does in the ring, and unless Amanda Nunez has something that we haven't seen, Felicia Spencer has more than a puncher's chance of taking her out.
I agree with that as
Um,
well.
I would. I think this is going to be. I don't see this fight going to decision. I don't, because if Nunez gets into 3 or 4 rounds, like, her gas tank is just not going to support her ambition. Uh,
Yeah.
it's just that's just the way it goes. And Felicia Spencer, I believe, has a much better gas tank. And I think if this goes past 2, like, Felicia Spencer's and new. If it's in the first 2 rounds, like, Amanda Nunez has either knocked her out or put her in a position where the referee has
They're
no
gonna stop
flipping
it
choice
for her.
but to stop this shit.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree very much there.
yeah. So if I had to pick a winner in this fight, um, I'm gonna join the crowd. Hold on, let me turn the hat back around. And new Felicia Spencer. I
Yeah.
would, and I think it creates a really interesting situation because you're gonna have to run that back.
Yeah. Well, that
So
and with Felicia coming over and potentially taking the belt from Amanda, what Cyborg couldn't do, that
yeah,
creates a direct draw and avenue from other ladies in Invicta, in LFA, in Cage
yeah,
Warriors, in several other different organizations to know that you can come to the UFC and become the champion. There's a chance there. I think Felicia Spencer has had either 4 or 5 round fights that she's seen her way through.
yeah.
She's got the conditioning to do it. My brain's screaming, Felicia can be the and new, but my heart cannot let me commit to it because of the way that my fucking record has gone the last couple of
I mean,
weeks.
it's Amanda Nunez. Betting against Amanda Nunez, like, it's
Exactly.
not smart.
It's
It's
always a
just not
hard call
smart.
to make, yeah.
Yeah. I think Felicia Spencer's got the smarts on her, unless she gets caught early,
Yeah.
and that's it.
Yeah,
Like,
I agree.
she's got a chance. Felicia Spencer's something else.
She is.
You
She's a
gotta
whole
stop
different animal.
following your heart when it comes to making picks. Just make the pick you think it's going to be. Eat your words later.
Yeah,
Suck
that's
it up. That's how it works.
I think
That's-
it's Spencer and new.
That's what I
And
said.
new.
The last 3 weeks, the last three events picks in a row. Every time I tried to go with what I thought, I ended up sounding like an asshole. So I at least gave both sides here.
Hey, it's okay to sound like an asshole. We're armchair quarterbacks for a reason.
This
That's
is
right.
true. This is true. This is very true.
I wouldn't pick a fight with Amanda Nunez.
It's
She'd
the
knock me the
fight.
fuck out.
Fuck no.
It's part of this is it's the fight game. We're
Right.
never always going to know.
Yeah, no shit. No shit. But that's half the fun of doing a goddamn show like this. That's part of why we do a show like this, because there's always differences of opinions. There's always different perspectives. There's a million different ways to look at everything, and nobody should rely on any one source for all of their information. Always look at multiple outlets. I don't want anyone to have this as the only MMA show that they watch. As much as I love the fans and I would gladly accept millions more of them, I don't ever want this to be the only place where you get your information. That's why I love having gentlemen like these folks here to help me along. But that's what we've got for this evening. So before we get out of here, I want to take a moment and thank these fine gentlemen for coming along and being part of this shit show with me, talking some punchy kicky, being part of the shenanigans we take place in here on the I'm No Joe podcast. And because we know, thanks to last week, that full screening is also what triggers OBS to freak the fuck out, we're just not going to do that this week. But I am going to say that at this point, we have got the area narrowed down, I think, to almost a football stadium parking lot size group. But if somebody hasn't yet signed up to get in on the PNW greatest game of hide and seek ever, helping us find Uncle Chael's Silo of Doom, how can they find you after the show's over, Fresh03?
So, we went to the suspected silo. We broke in, and all we found was a coconut and a note that said, "So long and thanks for all the grain." Rumor has it, Uncle Chael has moved his venue. We did not get our chance to hug him. We're hoping that he comes back to the PNW, though. We know he'll be back.
Yeah, as I say, we know he'll be there sooner or later.
Yeah, so you can, you can join us in the waiting time when we play games on Friday night over on youtube.com/retro3. I'm not sure which games we're playing this week, but we'll damn sure have some fun.
Hell yeah. Thank you very much for your time. Always appreciate your opinion and appreciate you being here, sir.
My pleasure, brother.
And now, I don't know if it's even possible, but theoretically, allegedly speaking, someone still doesn't know the best place to catch the greatest fries, cheese curds available, and MMA advice. How can they reach you after the show, Mr. Golf T Vapes?
Oh, number one, if they're not in Wisconsin, they ain't getting any good cheese curds. I don't give a fuck what state you're in.
It's true.
But, if you want to catch me Wednesday nights, this channel right here, Golf T Vapes, 9:30 Central Time. We've always got something going on. Shoot me a message on the social media platform on Instagram, and I will gladly get back to you. I don't post on there, but I do check the instant messages, so we'll talk shit on there, or you come talk shit on my show, and if I don't like it, I'll hit you with a band hammer. Fuck it.
Hell yeah. Thank you very much for being here, sir. Always appreciate your time and your opinion as well. That is all we have got for this particular episode, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for tuning in. Sunday evening, 9:30, same time we start around here. I will be doing the, what did I say, show? The recap show where I give you the actual results from UFC 250 in this particular case and break it down compared to how we thought it was going to go. And I've also got a little special announcement that we'll be making on this Sunday's What Did I Say show, but I'm not going to give you any clues. You're just going to have to tune in to find out. 9:30 Central Time, Sunday evening. We'll give you the breakdown for all of UFC's 250 unloading and a little something special. But that's all we've got for this one. So until next time, don't let ignorance stop you. You can root for anything. Unless at this point you think that justice just comes because you say that you need it.
Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening. How do I say goodbye to what we had? The good times.